Hey, welcome to meeting of the Carson City School District's Board of Trustees. It's Tuesday, February 13th. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:30. And we're going to start off with item 1, adoption of the agenda. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, do we have any public comment on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, item 2, flag salute. Trustee Crossman, would you lead us? Thank you. And tonight we have a special treat. We have the honor choir here, and they're going to sing the national anthem. So I'm going to put it in your hands and. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose proud stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red banners bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much for that. It's always nice to see students here, especially talented students. So thank you very much. You all sing much better than I ever could. We're going to move on to item 3, and please stick around for just a minute to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Fueling.
Thank you, President Crossman. Sorry, I habit. President Cassiopo and trustees, thank you. This evening, we have with us Mr. Sonamaker and his Northern Zone Music Educators Association CCSD Honor Choir. So, Mr. Sonamaker, would you care to do some introductions? Yeah, any of them. Just hit the button.
It's not green.
The base lights up green.
So this is actually the Carson High School members, and it's most of them. We've got some kids that were off at a theater competition and some kids that are at a rehearsal tonight. We had 28 students out of the 96 that made the ensemble. It's from all over this area of Nevada. We had 28 kiddos that made it. We have the 2 top soprano scores. We have the section leader and assistant section leader in the sopranos, and the 2 top tenor scores with our 2 of our tenors. And I'll just read their names, and the ones that are here will wave when I say their name. I'll start with the sopranos. We have El Los, who's the section leader. Hallie Martin is the assistant section leader, not here tonight. Ava Cole, not here tonight. Gianna Espiritu. Mia Cunha. Cassidy Latham. Haley Osborne's not here tonight. Neither is Kaylee Reedus. Leah Roylance. And Emma Spears is not here tonight. Altos. Jazzy Campbell's not here tonight. Kai Kerrigan is not here tonight. Zariah Irwin is here. Freshman. Woo. Jessica McGill, also a freshman. Wabby Runk. Anna Roylance, Lindsay Smith, Bella Thompson is not here, and Eleanor Woodrum. And then we have the tenor section leader, Parker Schmidt, who's on his way back from that competition. Eric Parker is the assistant section leader. And Nigel Torreson is also with that gang that's coming back from the competition. Basses, Sam Adkins. Chase Boholst, who's not here tonight. Max Bushy. Dwayne Hoffman. Grant Kirschbaum isn't here. And Robert Syons. They all have to audition, learn some sort of vocal tricks and a couple of pieces of music that they sing in a recorded audition. And a bunch of them are going to be auditioning tomorrow morning, bright and early, for the Nevada All-State Choir. How many of you are auditioning for All-State tomorrow? So, and I get to be off doing live auditions for the next 4 days, starting tomorrow morning, bright and early, traveling the state. So thanks for having us tonight. Very proud of them all.
Yes, sincerely, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come visit us. We really appreciate it when we can see the students perform and do what they do. So thank you. I don't know if anybody from the board has any comments,
Just a
Laurel?
quick comment. I have followed Honor Choir and All-State Choir for quite a few years. And good luck on your auditions tomorrow and the next day, however long you're doing it, because those All-State auditions, for those of you that don't know, they're no joke. They're really serious, and it's a pretty intensive experience for them. So good luck, guys. You're going to do fantastic.
All right, well, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave.
How nice of you.
We always have exciting agendas.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sonamaker. This evening, we also have Mrs. Kramer with us to introduce our Winterfest Royal Court.
Hi there. I'm Miss Kramer. I am the leadership teacher at Carson High School. And then, of course, I have the reps that you see every week here with us. So we have our Winterfest. We reached out, and of course, what's great about Winterfest is we have our freshmen through our seniors that run as candidates, and it's a whole week of, this year it was Senders Got Games, so it was board games and video games, and because they're involved in so many things, we're lucky to have our sophomores here. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll name them, and then our other candidates are just involved in a lot of stuff, so we'll kind of go over that with you. With our Winterfest week, we did raise money for the Special Olympics, and it was really exciting. We raised $250 in 25 minutes by taping some of our admin and teachers to the wall in Center Square. Mr. Fueling got to come and get some nice pictures of that, and it was a really fun time. You figure out which teachers are truly loved by how many students want to tape them to the wall. So I will let Alex go ahead, and it was great. Only one person stuck to the wall when we removed the stool. The other two fell, but they were really low to the ground, so it was okay. I'll let Alex start off with our freshman winners, and she'll kind of list off who won and then what they plan to do after high school.
Right on. Good morning, Good morning.
Good morning,
morning.
Alex.
Good afternoon, y'all. So to begin with our freshman winners, we have Maria Pimentel, ninth grader who plans on graduating college and becoming a therapist or veterinarian. Cruz Gonzalez, who is also a ninth grader who plans to go to college as well.
Then we have our two sophomores here.
And then the two sophomores that are here, Alex Martinez, who plans to be president.
Yeah.
Our second sophomore, Nora Schultz, and she plans to become a bajillionaire.
Good goals.
So you better get to know her really well. She might have some influence on your campaign.
And our next is Alex Martinez and
Your juniors and seniors.
and the next one is Keikoa Mitchell, and he forgets everything he's learned. And then also Addie Morgan, which is going to college to play soccer and then study to become a teacher, as well as AJ Marhaveka, and he'll be doing firefighting. And Brooklyn Grundy was going to beauty school. And that's it.
Those are our Winterfest winners. Any questions for us about Winterfest?
We have two of them here. Maybe we could briefly hear from them.
Yeah. Nora and Alex, you want to come up and tell us your favorite event from the week?
Yeah, I want to see how this event treated you.
We were very nice. So, Paulina, will you help him hit the button?
So just restate your name and then, yeah, let us know a little bit about your experience.
Okay, well, I'm Nora Schultz, and my favorite event was definitely the talent show that we had. It was a wonderful experience. I'm also an FBLA, which hosted the talent show, so I got to be a part of that as well, and it was one of my favorite experiences.
Say your name. No.
I'm Alex Martinez, and I think my favorite event was probably the Winterfest dance itself, just because it was the first dance that I got to go with someone special, which was Nora, my girlfriend. So I just thought it was cool.
All right.
Oh, congratulations to both of you. That's exciting. And congratulations to all the, really all the candidates and everybody who won. It's exciting. So good for you. And I wish you luck in your presidency and in
And your
becoming a gazillionaire.
bajillionaires.
Please think of your district.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Kramer. Some other items. We have our formerly known Community PLC that we're now calling Community Connections event coming up here on Wednesday, February 21st at 5:30 at Carson High School. There will be food. I repeat, there will be food. So please come and check it out. More information will be coming out, but it's going to be quite a nice event. Special thanks to Candy Robles and Josh Billings at the high school for helping put this together. It's a K-12 event to come and learn a little bit about what's going on in our school, some of the exciting things, and just have fun. And there's going to be food. So. On this Thursday, we have our bond oversight meeting at 11:30 at the district office, so please feel free to attend. Big news out of Eagle Valley Middle School, who had their Lego robotics team named the Metallic Eagles that won the state Lego Robotics Championship. And so in April, they are going to be going to Houston to compete in the international, I think it is actually titled as both, competition. So that's pretty exciting. When Superintendent Ebert was here a couple Fridays ago, she got to meet the team, and we'll have the team here for you at a future board meeting so you can meet with them and see how amazing we got to see what they're doing, and it's just pretty incredible. Final thing, just to note for our student that passed away, Lexi Rodriguez, her memorial services are going to be at Fitzhenry's Funeral Home on Saturday, February 17th at 10 a.m. Anyone interested in making donations to the family can drop them off at Carson High School through tomorrow. And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move on to item 4, board reports, board member comments, and we're going to start off with Carson High School. Do you have any additional comments for us?
Hi, I'm Alex Munoz, School Board Representative for Carson High School. To start off, I just want to talk about some sports. Recently, our wrestling team They will be sent off tomorrow at 7 a.m. for state, I believe. Currently, our boys basketball team was eliminated from playoffs, but currently our girls are playing right now at Minogue. So praying that we come out with a win tonight. I would also like to highlight that our student body elections just happened at school, and I would like to congratulate the following people. Eleanor Romeo is our next student body secretary. Eva Lindblom, next school board treasurer, student body treasurer. Betsy Campbell, our public relations officer. Sadie Brown, historian. And our next school board representatives, Diana Ancod and Christopher Eskridge. And I was recently elected student body president for Carson High School. So just be on the lookout for that.
And then to continue for Winterfest that just happened, the whole week went great. All the lunch activities and after school activities were so good. So a lot of school participation, especially we saw a couple people, you Lupe and Andrew. You guys at the Loteria night, which was so fun. Kids loved the prizes, and the whole week was just amazing to start off the Winterfest. So yeah, thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions on the board? Lupe?
Just a comment. Thank you for doing those activities. I saw how much the families were enjoying themselves, and I also saw your mom there, and she told me that she joined you for one of the board meetings, and she was very excited to be here, and she was so proud of you. So keep up the good work, girl. And both of you, keep up the good work. You guys are doing amazing stuff at Carson High.
Thank you.
And also to add to that, also the class elections are going to be soon, so we're also going to be on the lookout for that for like individual classes like seniors, juniors, and sophomores. Yeah, and that'll be next week, start next Monday.
Great, thank you. We appreciate it.
Congrats.
Before we move on to Pioneer, I meant to do it a little earlier, and I apologize, but Superintendent Fueling had mentioned Lexi's service. Wanted to just have a moment of silence for her tonight. So if you'll indulge us, I just ask for that moment of silence now, if you will. Thank you. We're going to move on to Pioneer. We have Maggie Uzel. Is it Uzel? Okay. To give us a report on Pioneer.
All right, this is my first time being here, so bear with me. I might fumble. Here at Pioneer, here's the Pioneer Academy activities. Our student spotlight on February falls on Haven Bryant, reading an article about her here on Carson Now. English teacher Miss Walker, social studies teacher Miss Cantley, and science teacher Miss Steinkraus are participating in an early career educator fellowship program, in which they are mentored by teachers who have received the Teacher of the Year award of the entire state. Our very own Dr. Leanne Morris is on one of their mentors. The speech and debate team will compete in the Elko tournament this weekend. Go Look team. Pioneer ski program is up and running. We've had 2 trips so far with a lot of student success and growth. The next trip will be tomorrow. Our next Discovery Block Day will be on Wednesday, February 21st, with a focus on economics and histories of board games. Pioneer Academy's juniors are gearing up for the ACT testing on February 27th, and so far 25 students have been acknowledged on positive referrals this semester. Thank you. That concludes the Pioneer Academy activities and announcements. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Any questions for Maggie? You're getting off easy. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Okay, we're going to move on to Nevada Association of School Boards, NASB update. We are actually going to have, on one of our agenda items, NASB is going to be here. They might be running late, I'm not sure. So if they're not here on time, if the board will indulge us, we'll slide them a little farther back on the agenda and just continue in, otherwise in order. But does anybody, Mike, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, so obviously, I was gonna say that they were starting at Douglas, so they might be a little late getting here.
Sure.
Last weekend, President Cassiopo and I attended a meeting with the school board presidents from across the state. I think everybody but one district was there. So it was a great time to collaborate with our colleagues and kind of set some priorities for the next legislative session. And I just want to say that Joe represented Carson City well, and we started the legwork of our meeting that will happen in March to kind of get more people involved in that legislative process and assuming a proactive stance as we're getting ready to enter a legislative session. So hopefully everybody will be able to attend.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Board announcements, we'll start with Trustee Crossman.
Dr. Ward from Fremont Elementary School would like to let everyone know that they are having a PTA meeting this Friday at 7:30 a.m. They're working really hard to save their PTA because they need more parents to volunteer for the leadership position. So as someone who spent many years in PTA, it's a great way to be involved. It not only helps your students, but it helps you to learn about your students' peers, and it helps you to meet their parents, and it just builds community at a school. So I would encourage any of the parents at Fremont to be involved and participate in the PTA. Who knows, maybe you'll end up on the school board someday. But even if you don't, you can still, it's impactful, and it's so helpful for the students at the school to have that parent involvement. And then also she says that they are looking forward to Reading Week, which will be March 4th through the 8th. And if anyone from the district or from the board would be interested in reading to students, they have spots available. So that concludes my report for Fremont.
Thank you. Trustee Varner.
Yes, good evening, everyone. From Boardwalk Bray, Principal Raqueta would like everybody to know that on Wednesday, February 21st, they will have their PTO-sponsored dance-a-thon. And then in the evening, they are having an 80s themed family dance from 5 to 7 p.m. They will have great music, a 50-50 raffle, pizza, a photo booth, and so much more. And they hope to see all their families there for those activities. They are also hosting the Reading Week starting March 4th through the 8th. They have lots of fun events happening, such as dress-up days, guest speakers, and their exciting reading night which is being held on March 7th. And they're also asking for volunteers who might want to come in and read to the children during that period of time. And then from Fritch, Principal Brown, who's in the audience here, wanted everyone to know that this week they're celebrating a week of kindness, which I think is awesome. The daily themes are Monday, what does kindness mean to you? The theme for Tuesday is, why do you think it is important to be kind? Wednesday, how can you show kindness to others? For Thursday, how do you think other people feel when you are kind to them? And then Friday, why should kindness only be done for 1 week? And why kindness matters and why it makes a difference. So I think that's awesome, Principal Brown, thank you. Also, their PTO will be sponsoring a hot chocolate social on Friday, February 16th from 7:20 or 7:30 to 8:20 p.m. a.m. All Fritz families are invited to attend. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Walt.
Thank you. So for Empire Elementary School, Mr. Tuttle would like to give a shout out to the Bistro Buddies Foundation. The Bistro Buddies Foundation has provided Empire Elementary School another addition to its STEM opportunities. The foundation gave Empire Elementary School a 3D printer. Their students really appreciate it, and they will be integrating the 3D printer into many of their hands-on projects. Just another next level partner at Empire Elementary School. Another reminder to Empire families, please allow your children to be at school every day on time and stay the whole day. Allow your children to read with you every night. Allow your children to practice math facts with you every night. And allow your children to discuss the SEL topic of the week, which is kindness. Empire is celebrating the week of kindness by creating daily kindness challenges. Monday, the challenge was say one kind thing to a person you sit next to. Today was show kindness to your environment. Tomorrow is give a compliment to a school staff member. Thursday, the challenge is be kind to yourself by saying 3 positive things about yourself. And Friday's challenge is write a kind message for the school's kindness tree. And that is all for Empire. And then for Carson High School, Mr. Carstens mentioned that they are making some headway on their chronic absenteeism rate. By dropping it about 3 percentage points, which is close to their goal, and would give us an extra point for their star rating if they did that by 3%. So go Carson High. Additionally, their ELA teachers are seeing some good growth from the beginning of the year in regards to an ACT style assessment. And their co-Ps, I'm not quite sure what that means, but are working through the proficiency scales, and each department has developed assessments in alignment with their proficiency scales, which is many of which are being used as their student learning goals for their evaluation. So again, I think the theme of both schools is attendance. Let's get our kids to school.
Hey, Trustee Clapham.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Mark Twain. Ms. Crookshanks would like to remind everybody that Mark Twain continues to be awesome. They've decreased their number of behavior referrals by 39% from the first quarter to the second quarter. They've been enjoying special end of quarter events such as an art event for the second quarter. And then next there will be a theater event. They are currently planning their fourth quarter reward, and she told me to shh, so I'm not going to report what they're doing. These events, as well as weekly prizes and opportunities, can be purchased with hawk feathers. They've also finished their mid-year review of their school improvement goals. They are on track with attendance, sitting at 16% chronic absenteeism, and they are a little below where they want to be on their winter map scores. However, they shifted some groups and added some interventions to get back on track to meet the school goals. They're very excited to welcome their new school social worker, Giselle. She comes to them with a lot of knowledge and a wealth of experience. She's at the state MTSS conference yesterday and today, and she'll start back tomorrow. And they also had a great visit with Superintendent Joan Ebert and had a few of the board members join. And she wanted to thank everyone for coming and allowing her to showcase the great work that they're doing there. Mrs. Robinson from Carson Middle School says on Wednesday they're rewarding the students' hard work with a dance and activity day, and they want to celebrate the students' successes. Thursday, their girls' volleyball teams will compete in the Taniva Championship Tournament in Douglas County, and they have their annual Northern Zone Nevada Music Educators Association honor concerts this month. That was hard. It's I was going to try to pronounce the acronym, but I won't. And that is going to be, the honor band is February 16th at 7 p.m. and the honor choir is February 23rd at 7 p.m. Both events will take place in Carson City at the Carson City Community Center. And she wanted to make sure that we realize that there are some great musicians at Carson Middle School. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Walker.
Good evening. So Seeliger is focused on love and appreciation this month, and specifically they are reporting that they're grateful for all of the support shown and hard work by students, staff, and parents. And they are focused on encouraging healthy habits, which include reading daily, getting lots of physical activity, and eating nutritious meals. And they happily report that they have completed their access testing, so that's a big celebration for them.
Thank you. Trustee Ramirez.
So from Eagle Valley Middle School, Dr. Conley is letting us know that they will be raising funds for the Lego robotics team with a $5 hat and hoodie day on Friday, February 16. And then the Eagle Valley virtual PTO meeting is Tuesday tonight at 7 o'clock as we speak. Parents can tune in via Zoom as per Parent Square message. And the WIDA testing for the ELL students is being held this week. And as Superintendent mentioned earlier, we congratulate the robotics team that are going to compete in Houston. We wish them the very best. I also want to thank Dr. Conley for meeting with me. We had a very nice conversation. I had not met with him since the beginning of the school year, so I thank him for his time, and I also thank Dr. Lennox, who's in the audience, for also meeting with me, and we're very excited to hear your presentation. So that concludes my report.
Hey, thank you. I had a backup report for Pioneer, but Maggie took care of that for me, so I'm off the hook. But again, yeah, great things are happening at Pioneer. I chat with Mr. Zona somewhat regularly, and it's always really exciting to hear what they have going on over there. They do a nice job. We're going to move on to item 5, association reports.
Well, I'm back again. Okay. Hello over there, Superintendent Fueling. Good evening, President Cassiopo, trustees, legal counsel, always being left out, and Renee. My name is Loretta Marson. I have another title. It's Vice President of CESA, and that is one of the reasons I'm here tonight to just update you on some of the stuff that's happened with CESA. First, I'd like to let you know that our meeting dates have changed. They will be the third Wednesday of each month at El Charles at 4:30 in the party room in the back. Those dates are March 20th, April 17th, and May 15th. We don't meet in the summer. That's our time. I would also like to let you know who our board members are. Carrie Finn is our president. She's at Pioneer. I am vice president. I'm at Empire. Kelly Ferretti, she is our secretary, and she's at Carson Middle School. Lynn Garrett, she is our treasurer, and she's at Carson High School. And our advisory chair is Beverly Singleton. And we are proud to announce that Carrie Finn has been appointed to serve on the Nevada State Education Support Professional Recruitment and Retention Advisory Task Force. Senate Bill number 71. And this is basically for this committee to get together. It has been for teachers, but now it is part of the support staff, which includes everyone who works for school districts. And they're going to be trying to put information together about what the challenges are and how to keep employees with the district. And so they will be meeting, I think, quarterly. So I want to say congrats to Carrie. I think she'll do a great job representing all of us. And I think that is it. Any questions?
Could you just restate when CESA meets again?
It's the third Wednesday of each month at 4:30 at El Charles in the party room in the back.
Okay.
And I was just going to ask, how crazy do those parties get?
You know, this is going to be the first time we meet. So, yeah, most of the times we had been meeting at the Pizza Factory, but our pres likes chips and salsa. That's all I can tell you. So you can always get in touch with Carrie Finn or myself and just let us know if you guys want to attend. Okay? It'll be our first meeting, so we won't raise the roof too much. Anything else?
20th, 17th, and 15th.
Yes. Like I said, you can always get in touch with Carrie. She's over at Pioneer. All right? All right, thank
Well,
you.
great, thank you, and welcome back. Any additional association reports? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public comment. I know we don't have any that were submitted online, so I believe we have public comment in person. And I'll just give you the cheat sheet version of this. You know this already, but everybody has 3 minutes. We ask that if there's a lot of public comment especially on the same issue, that we don't just repeat the commenters before. And if you would just state your name and we'll get started.
Thank you, trustees. My name is Sina Lloyd for the record. I'm board president of Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada and a resident of Carson City. I do know most of you on the Board of Trustees here. Today I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a member of the community, and our board has given authority to our CEO, Brett, to speak on behalf of the board. But I did want to talk about partnerships and what that means for the community and for the school district and the Boys and Girls Club, and why that's important and why I feel that's important. Being raised by a teacher, I think that an item on your agenda is of great importance. I feel that by providing a service to teachers, by providing daycare services or preschool services to teachers to be able to help them fulfill their family goals, and doing that in a way that is affordable to them and provides them a way to continue to raise their families, is an important goal that we should have here in Carson City. And I know that we've worked hard on the club side of things, and the school district has worked hard on the school district side of things, and you'll hear that later on today. So I will leave it to the board and our CEO to work through the details, but I'm amenable to whatever form that decides to take with you guys as the Board of Trustees and our board to create this agreement, if you guys are amenable to doing that. And I thank you for your time this evening, and I think that this could be a great budding partnership.
Thank you. Okay. Any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close general public comment. We were going to move on to item 7, which was the NASB update, but since I believe they're on their way, they're not here yet, we're going to go ahead and postpone that and jump to item 8. So we'll have discussion and possible action to direct the superintendent to finalize and complete a joint use agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada, BGCWN. With BGCWN will provide daycare services to the Carson City community, with priority enrollment therein granted to CCSD staff in a portion of 110 Thompson Street, Carson City, Nevada, owned by the Carson City School District. Approval of this item requires an affirmation finding by the Carson City School District Board of Trustees that the proposed daycare area is available for this use, and that the agreement will provide a benefit to the Carson City School District. Approval of this item will not have a financial impact on the district because BGCWN will be responsible for all improvements to the daycare area attendant to its joint use thereof. This is for possible action. Sorry, I stumbled on that a little bit.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. Could you say that again? Real quick.
I was going to read it backwards if you don't mind.
Thank you. So first, I want to thank everyone who is here this evening, and we'll just do some quick introductions. We have Michelle Williams, who is the director of the Smart Start Centers for Boys and Girls Club. Brett Zanino, who is the CEO of Boys and Girls Club here in town, and Jennifer Williams, who is a teacher of ours over at Seeliger Elementary School. And I just hope that this item reinforces how much we value our staff here in the district and how much we value our community partners and how much we value our community, because this is, in my estimation, a win-win-win across the board. So long ago, take you back to May of 2022, which was an interesting time. So we had I just signed my contract for my to work into the superintendent role, and soon thereafter, I get an email. And the email is from a teacher at Seeliger by the name at the time, I believe, Jennifer Purcell, right? That had reached out and said, AJ, congratulations. I'd really like to meet with you and talk to you about some ideas I have about childcare, daycare services in the district for staff. And so I went over to Seeliger Elementary School, not really knowing what to expect, but very willing to listen. Quite honestly, I had kind of blacked out at that point. It was a pretty intense time in May 2022, but went over to Seeliger to meet with Jennifer and talk a little bit about her thoughts and concerns and what she had learned. She had already been doing some work on this. So Jennifer, if you don't mind, maybe talking a little bit about that.
Good evening. Is this on? I can't tell. Okay. Good evening. I reached out to AJ when my husband and I were trying to start a family and coming across the idea of childcare is lacking in Carson City, especially as a home base for all of our employees in the district. I was actually a part of the Teachers Leading Change cohort that NWRPDP put on. And so it kind of got my brain thinking and turning of all my friends are contemplating, do I quit my job to stay home with my new baby? What am I gonna do? And we actually had some teachers leave our profession to stay home with their child. So as Superintendent Feeling said, I had done my own research. I contacted school districts across the country who had programs in place. I graduated from UNR, and they have a on-site CFRC that they offer to their employees and their students to where their kids can be on site with them. And so I'm getting all this information and trying to learn and trying to approach Superintendent Feeling of, hey, here's what I've got. I'd love to try and give it a go. And so I surveyed the district, all school district employees, and received a ton of feedback through countless surveys and emails that I've printed and just the thank yous that have come for bringing this conversation open and up. And being on the radar team within our district of retaining and recruiting employees, this would be a great way to retain great teachers, especially with us younger teachers starting our families. And recruiting, I think it would be a huge stressor off of somebody maybe coming out of area and not having to worry about finding childcare for their kids. And I think it would just benefit us as having a partnership and a place where we know our kids can go and we're trusting. And I just think it would be a great benefit. So.
Thanks, Jennifer. So after Jennifer and I had spoken, she had already done one of the surveys that she was speaking about, and she had all the graphs ready to go when I came into her room and showing me the results and clearly the level of interest and that sort of thing. And I'll say at the time, I didn't exactly know what to make of it in terms of, like, clearly there was this survey data, but how how big is it really? And so if you remember at well, I guess beginning of both years, but last school year, I went around to the sites at the beginning of the year and met with staff all over the district, and over and over again, this came up as a concern, as an issue. And clearly it's not exactly our concern, except it's our people that are struggling, right? And so went back and actually really started looking at this, and using some of the information that Jennifer had put together, trying to get in touch with some other districts that do this across the country, which there are not as many as I guess I would have expected. And getting some information from the state, recognizing at some point there that this is actually really complicated. Like, we don't have anyone in district that speaks daycare, childcare exactly. At least, I guess, the level of what I needed to know in terms of requirements, and it was just a lot. And then serendipity struck. I happened to go to the Boys and Girls Club, and I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why we were meeting. It had nothing to do with this. And Brett and I were discussing, gosh, I don't remember. New school sites. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So there was a good reason. I wasn't just wandering about. And he just happened to mention that, this idea of, I think we started talking, somehow it got into daycare, and he was talking about how Boys and Girls Club has a model, and he was looking at bringing that on board here in town, and really with the needs that were becoming evident in town. So Brett, maybe I'll let you take the story from there a little bit if you want to talk about that situation.
For the record, I'm Brett Zanino, CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada. Yeah, we met on that day, and I shared a pretty touching story, I think, with AJ too, about one of our club members. So, and that led us into daycare. And I think my words, you had mentioned that you had maybe primed the pump a little bit. And my comment to you was, you guys are the primary educator. We're a support system. Why don't you educate our kiddos and let us find a way to make that daycare partnership work on our behalf? And that's when the conversation started. And what really had got myself and our board and our staff really intrigued about daycare was our child care policy report that was released in February 2023 from the governor's office that coined Nevada the daycare desert, because for every child daycare, there's 3 waiting for a spot. And that same report went on to say that probably, and this is back in 22, 23, it was released, that the daycare pandemic was probably one of the root causes for the economic turmoil that we went through. Depleted workforce, we're talking about teachers, what Jennifer's talking about. High cost of goods and services and inflation all stem from this child care pandemic. In Nevada alone, there's $1 billion in GDP that went out the door. Not to mention the ruin happened with the families that just didn't have a place to put their kids, accessible and affordable daycare. And the model that had been in place is through our Boys and Girls Club at Truckee Meadows, which is a completely different clubhouse. But basically I told AJ, hey, I think we can use that model here. We'll make it work. You educate, we'll work on the daycare component, because we do speak daycare and preschool. And I think that's when that kind of first started working in our minds, how we could make that partnership work.
So after a very exciting meeting, again, that I had no idea was going to happen, went back and after a couple months talking, I guess really recognizing that this really was a possibility, that we could make something work. And Brett is, there is more energy in this young man than I don't know. I can't deal with it. It's so much energy. And he's got great ideas, and he's thinking of angles on how to make things work better. And so I really appreciated that energy. And so as we started talking about this, we visited some sites, just thinking about what the possibilities were. Michelle joined us a couple times, and really ended up settling on, if there was a place that seemed to be a good option for this, it was where we currently have our Student Support Services building, which is located behind Bordewick Bray Elementary School. Currently, we have our 3-year-old early childhood program there. So it's already really in good shape in terms of dealing with younger kids. So that it just seems like a good option, and the space being appropriate was really a helpful part of the discussion. So some of the benefits I would say just overall, if this became an option, and what we're ultimately looking at is having a renovation of 3 rooms that would be providing, or that would be used for the daycare services. There's some complexities to how many kids can be there depending on age, and maybe Michelle can help us a little bit, just talking through just some of the considerations of that. But ultimately, not only does it benefit our staff if we are able to do this at that site, it really is a community benefit because it increases community capacity. So if we have staff right now that have their children in daycares across the city, and they now have this, well, they would be potentially removing their children from those daycares, bringing them into the Boys and Girls Club service here in Carson City, and opening up more spaces in the city. So that's a huge benefit overall. Otherwise, the benefit to our staff. The other potential benefit is that we, as you may know, over at Carson High School, we have our education program, our early childhood program. Actually, I think Mrs. Tuttle is back here somewhere, who runs that show. And she's kind of famous because she does an amazing job from everything everyone knows. So there's a benefit where some of those students may end up being able to work through work-based learning or internships, whatever it may be, or otherwise just eventually becoming employed by Boys and Girls Club to work in this facility. So it's not a free service. I think that's just important to say. We're not offering the service for free. There is not unlimited space, which maybe is something to talk about as well. And there are some renovations that need to happen within the building that we have worked out. Boys and Girls Club has agreed to fund within that portion of the building, fund the work that needs to be done there. So I don't know if this is better for Michelle or you, Brett, but just talk a little bit about what, in terms of capacity and cost and things like that.
I'll speak to capacity and costs to make this happen. So the Boys and Girls Club, before we enter any kind of project like this, was build a pro forma or financial model. How's this going to work? And so there is a low number and a high number that we want to stay within. And this facility actually seems to fit well. We want to be, if it's a self-sustained area, we want to be over 55 kids for it to be worth our while financially to do this. Otherwise, because of the services we provide, we wouldn't be able to stay afloat. This has a fixed capacity of 69 kids based on the square footage. Now that could change depending on what the state comes through and does their inspection. It could bump up or down a child or two, probably down a little bit, a child or two, but we're still within that good capacity, the operational capacity of at least 55 kids. So yeah, 69 kids is what we think fixed capacity is. Along with the remodel, we're also adding, it looks like a bathroom. We're reconfiguring a couple bathrooms. And also taking care of some other services for the school district, just to make the space more functional, because we're taking space for this daycare. So that's worth noting. The cost of the remodel without, sunk costs is about $135,000, $136,000. So there's fees that are going to be associated with that. There's going to be hidden things that you run up against you don't really know about. So we've just kind of fluffed things up to about $150,000 to cover the cost of the renovation for that. On top of that, the Boys and Girls Club will be paying for the FF&E. So all the furniture that would go into those 3 rooms that would hold the children, all the software, everything we need to run the daycare would be on the Boys and Girls Club would pay for as well. As far as age groups, that's going to vary a little bit. I don't think at this site, and I'll let Michelle speak to that a little bit, and I've got this for you, Michelle, but looks like we won't be able to, initially, we can talk about it. Newborn to 9-month-old is going to be a difficult age group to handle. We only have 3 rooms, and we only have so much square footage to work with here. And the ratios are really, really different. 1 to 4, I believe, for these little guys. So it looks like we have space open from 9-month-old all the way up to 5 years old, 69 kids, like I said before. And we can combine the 9 through the 24-month-old in 1 room, and then the 24 to 36-month-old in another room, and then the 3-year-old up to 5, maybe close to 6 in another room. So do you want to speak more about the capacity with those?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. For the record, my name is Michelle Williams, and I'm the director of the Smart Start Centers. And as we know, there are always requirements through the state, and so we work very closely with child state licensing in order to make this the most optimal space. We would find out first what the teachers' needs are, the age ranges that we have, and then work with state licensing to see based on the square footage of those rooms and the ratios that they have for the children, what we would be able to do to fit all the needs across the board. We talked about newborns to 9 years old being something that we are not looking at initially because it's a 1 to 4 ratio, whereas there's a 1 to 6 ratio for the next age group up, which then goes to the age group after that. So if they're in the same age group, then we don't have to change around the room. The way that the room works is that the kid who is the youngest in the room is how the ratio is. So if you just have 1 newborn in the room, the entire room is now at this 1 to 4 ratio. So just a little bit of background there on understanding what that is and what that looks like. And we like to split them up in these different age groups as well to make sure that they are working together developmentally, hitting the milestones that they should. And I just want to say as well, as we are all educators in this room, everybody's a teacher, everybody's a learner, but more so us in this room, I would say preschool is where school starts. And so I think having this quality education, there's a lot of statistics out there showing that children who attend preschool have higher graduation rates, higher reading rates, less of the issues that we're experiencing at Carson High School of, not attrition, what's the word I'm looking for? Absenteeism. That's the A word I was looking for. Attrition's the opposite. So working on that chronic absenteeism, because at that age, they're so ready to learn. They're little sponges. And being able to give them the opportunity at that age to find a love in school is a love for school for life, a love for learning for life. So I have just been loving it personally, seeing the little guys light up and seeing a lot of families who don't have this opportunity coming into our program that we just opened up at Russell Way. So very excited to be partnering with the school district, and I think that we're going to be doing stuff for generations here.
AJ, you mentioned tuition rates. So one thing to also keep in mind is that we've kept our rates pretty medium of the road, middle of the road, compared to the other daycares in Carson City. There's 1 or 2 that might be lower. They're not going to offer the services that the Boys and Girls Clubs offer, and they don't have the resources we do as well. The rates, I think all of our teachers and our staff are going to find very, very affordable and pleasing. So remember, we're looking at accessible and affordable daycare, so we're going to keep our eye on that.
And I really appreciate that in these conversations. It was really all about what level of quality and capacity can we make happen and at as affordable a cost as we can, but to make sure the program can be successful, right, in terms of financial on the Boys and Girls Club side, so that it makes sense. It makes sense to continue and is able to self-sustain, but otherwise be a little bit less of a burden on our staff in terms of costs that they would have to bear. So I want to, I don't know, is there anything anyone else would like to say this evening before I start wrapping up?
I would like to just mention that the Child Care Policy Report had a solution to all these daycare pandemic ideas that are floating around. One of them is the community hubs, like the Boys and Girls Club, partner with other organizations who have these issues, and their solution in that Child Care Policy Report is pretty cool to look at and to read. But we're pioneers in this. If this goes through, we're pioneers here in Carson City, Carson Valley, really, the whole area, to partner with the school district for a daycare. And I think that's kind of slick. And we get to be actually the ones leading the way to show people if we partner together as nonprofit with other organizations in the community, specifically our school district, look what we can accomplish. So it's exciting for us.
I was thinking back and earlier in the school year as well, Trustee Walt and I were at the Carson City Behavioral Health Task Force meeting way back in the fall, right? And this was even something that came up there as trying to encourage within Carson City, trying to find out which employers were offering any type of childcare services and otherwise trying to encourage that. And I think there have been it's kind of been article after article, report after report during this school year, where we've just seen that this need is growing, this need is a concern, this need has economic consequences, and so it's really, I believe a step in the right direction. I really wanted Jennifer to be here and just to make sure she got some credit for planting the seed initially. She's a Carson kid. So that's a big benefit too, right? But just to make sure she gets credit for kind of starting us down that path. So with that, we are asking for your approval to allow me to finalize a joint use agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada to provide these services at our student support services facility, starting with the next school year. So with that, I will be happy to take any questions.
Mr. President,
Yes,
can I maybe just offer a little
please.
nuts and bolts of how it will actually work? So before you guys is the substance of a joint use agreement, which will be between the Boys and Girls Club and the Carson City School District, under which the premise and what was approved by the Boys and Girls Club to be included in the final joint use agreement is their obligation to construct improvements to the student support services area with an amount that was approved of up to $150,000. The agreement will provide that $150,000 investment in the school district's property, which will remain the school district's property, will be amortized over a 10-year period as a joint use fee, at which point the term of the agreement as drafted currently is 10 years as well. The idea being that they would come back to this board at that point for a renewal of the agreement at a nominal joint use fee of whatever, $1 a year, with the idea that staff would continue to get priority enrollment at a rate that is affordable to the staff. The district would retain ownership of the improvements. In other words, there is value going both ways. The district looked at this and through speaking with Mr. Johnson and everybody else, one, we can ensure that everybody complies with, because it's joint use, the visitor policy and everything else to ensure that access to education records, students, and the like is all protected. The Boys and Girls Club has protocols for whom can be employed. Their background checks are consistent with what Ann Sear would like us to see. And so the joint use model is one that is a little bit novel in this situation. It's familiar in the area. Some folks might be familiar with the Boys and Girls Club's joint use agreement with the city, for example, for the MAC. It's a way to reap mutual benefit. And so until this board acts tonight, there is no formal agreement. What you're approving is the substance of agreement, which is what I just described to you. And if you're comfortable authorizing AJ to take that agreement, make sure it's finalized and sign it, this process from a legal standpoint had to go a certain way so that we didn't have to keep bringing agenda items to you time and again. And so it was a matter of AJ and Brett getting together, understanding the outline of what was going to be done, making sure that the Boys and Girls Club was going to be agreeable to it if you approve it. And that's why it's presented to you as direction to finalize a joint use agreement tonight on those terms.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Trustee Walker, you had a question or comment?
Mostly just a comment. So, I mean, I think this was a great idea. One of the things we talk about often is the challenges for teachers and how hard it is for them to, support a family on beginning teacher wages. And daycare is something we haven't even started to talk about because our focus has been on housing, lack of housing, price of housing. And so this is kind of that first step as a way to support our employees. It's, in my mind, it's a win-win, and I think it's great that the Boys and Girls Club is coming to the table willing to help. You know, there's a lot of stresses that are put on our schools right now that we're not always trained to deal with. And it really is going to take the help of everybody, whether it's mental health or security of buildings or daycare and housing for our employees. And so I think that you're thinking outside the box. I think that it's going to benefit employees, and I think you're moving in the right direction with this.
Molly?
Thank you. First, I think, I don't know where I would have been if we would have had this back when I was teaching. So the reason I left teaching is because of daycare. I had twins that were extremely premature, born with a birth defect, one was, and there wasn't a daycare in Carson City that would take them. So I had no choice but to leave teaching to stay home with the twins, and then 2 others came after that. So then I just stayed home even longer and did adult education. So who knows? I mean, with that, I think during my exit interview with, I think it was Associate Superintendent Delphine at the time, you know, I had talked about hybrid, you know, is there any way that, or job sharing, you know, that we could possibly job share, because I did not want to leave the profession of teaching. I loved what I did. So you know, kudos to you for bringing this to the forefront, and thank you for, you know, doing all the research that you did to do this, because it is an issue. And I think it's an issue with educators as well, not just the fact that there is a lack of daycare, but being an educator and having to stay home, you know, with taking a day off or whatever the case may be, is so much more work than people imagine. You know, trying to prep for substitutes is like a job and a half for that as well. So I commend you for the work that you've done on this. And I do, like I said, I wish, you know, possibly 20 years ago that it was brought forward. I know I would still be teaching to this day. I do have a few points that I just kind of want to bring to your attention. You mentioned that it's a 10-year period, you know, that this would be renewed. If the leadership at the Boys and Girls Club was to change, and you know that, and I had spoke to your president about this today as well, but if the board changes as well and they choose not to do this, you know, now we have a building that is set for this, but then they choose that you know, they don't want to continue. What then?
There's a few things. First of all, the arrangements that we're doing with the remodel really does just benefit the building, so it can be reutilized in any capacity. It's not being changed to where, oh my gosh, now we've got to retrofit it.
Okay.
So that's number one. Number two, it's a joint use agreement for 10 years. Then I think Ryan can speak to this better than I can, but with a nominal fee every 10 years that we come back before you all and say, are we still in good shape? It's pretty, for the Boys and Girls Club, it's a no-brainer. And the board has to live with that 10-year agreement. So if I get hit by a bus, yeah, we have a 10-year agreement. However, part of our strategic plan is these daycares. We have invested heavily, a lot of our cash into pioneering daycares here in Carson City and Carson Valley. An example is we're in the process of purchasing a piece of property at 2805 Mountain Street, which is formerly Dyer Law Office firm, and it'll serve over 100 kids. And that's a $1.2 million fundraising project that'll cost about $3 million to renovate to make it a daycare. This is part of our long-term strategic plan. Most recently in Carson Valley, which does affect us in a way because we have people commuting back and forth. One of our longtime donors donated almost a $4 million building on 2 acres, which will be a clubhouse for the kids, and there will be a Smart Start there. So our long-term financial investment is pretty steeped. And so there could be the possibility that the Boys and Girls Club board changes their mind if I'm not around. Hopefully I'll be around for a while. But I think it would be a hard decision because we're invested deeply financially into it, and the community needs these services.
All right, and I appreciate that. And yes, you're right. The community does need the services as well. You mentioned the affordable rate. Are we looking at, you know, because if I was to research it right now, Nevada's average base is not affordable for educators. And so are you going to be working, with the teachers and the educators that will be using this service to come up with an affordable rate? And I'm just going to throw it out there. I just hope that you don't go with Nevada's average base because it is not affordable for educators. And the other thing that I would hope that you would keep in mind as well is a lot of educators that put their children into daycares have to pay a summer rate to save their spot, which I don't think is fair either. So I would hope that that would be part of the, because I know you're going to be looking at it as this is a source of income for the Boys and Girls Club, and you may do it as a 12-month. When you do your financials, you will look at it as 12 months, but I would hope that you don't charge the educators for the summer months, that they're not using it just to save a spot.
As far as the Nevada average rates, or average tuition rates, I don't know what they are. We just kind of focus locally here. Boys and Girls Club at Truckee Meadows is a very large Boys and Girls Club and has a very good model worked out. So we stuck with those numbers, but we really hung closely to Western Nevada College as well, with their daycare, their numbers. So for example, right now what we have slated for 36 months to 5 years old is $192 a week. That's our rate for the Boys and Girls Club here. Excuse me, the younger kiddos, obviously a little bit more expensive, $242 for 9 to 18 months for the week. But AJ and I talked, we do look at this as a source of income stream, so it's important to us. We can keep offering services to the community through the Boys and Girls Club and now our daycares. But we're not out to make a killing. We just want to make it reasonable. So we had talked about, well, let's present the rates that we have that are well within the other daycares. As a matter of fact, we're probably lower than 80% of the daycares here in town at these rates. As a matter of fact, one of our own employees at our Russell Way location has a 3-year-old, and now that we have 3-year-olds available at our Russell Way location, is leaving a daycare that she's not happy with, doesn't have the quality program services we do. I won't name the daycare, but it just went up to over $200, I believe, a week, $210, $205 a week. So I think we're going to find with the teachers that we're in pretty good shape. All that to say, we'll revisit the numbers together. AJ and I will.
I would also like to note that the Boys and Girls Club has community partners and ties all around, and we work closely with the Children's Cabinet as well, who does offer funding. Like we have, I would say, about half of our students currently on subsidy programs with the Children's Cabinet, and especially for those single parents out there, that type of stuff, it's a no-brainer, and a lot of our community partners are willing to help and come together, and that's, I think, a beauty of our relationship is that the Boys and Girls Club does have multitude of services and resources or people that we can reach out to help support.
To that point as well, we'll always be searching for grants. We don't want to live off of grant money. That'll never be our MO. But there's a lot of them right now, and we have an alliance, a Boys and Girls Club Alliance, that has a VP of Government Relations that really has a big team. It's a lobbying team. So they're looking for dollars, and we might even have dollars for the Thompson Center with round 3 of this ECLIP grant funding that's being awarded. We don't know yet, but there's always that too.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate, this coming forward as well, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great sustainability project, I think, too, for the Boys and Girls Club, so kudos for that as well. Yeah, so, I mean, those are just mine, it's just the affordable rates in the summer months. Thank you.
Go Laurel, then Rich.
Thank you. I like this idea. I just have a question that if you can't answer, Mr. Fueling, perhaps Mrs. Lennox can. But I know that at that same site, we serve our early intervention for 3-year-olds, and they receive services that they qualify for. Are we going to lose any classroom space that would prohibit how many students that qualify for services that we can provide them to? Or are we going to have enough room for all the kids that we teach in that special
Sure.
K or that student support pre-K?
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Crossman. No, so our current early childhood kiddos that are there are served in 2 rooms right across the hallway from the 3 rooms that we're talking about here. So none of them will be displaced. There won't be any loss of capacity to serve in that program at all. So and that just goes to, like, the larger idea was that there effectively is space available to make this work, and it didn't impact our operations really in any way in doing that. So, not substantively. at
Okay,
least.
because I remember some of those other rooms were where they did occupational therapy and some other things. We're not
That-
limiting any of that access to those?
That's a part of the renovation. That room is shifting, but it's just shifting right down the hall. There's just going to be a little renovation to a room to make that work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. A lot of the questions that I had have been asked and answered, so thank you. Jennifer, thank you for getting the ball rolling. I think it's a very important project that hopefully we'll undertake. I just have a couple things. I'm sure we're not going to see the final agreement before it's signed?
The way the agenda item's written tonight, you're authorizing the superintendent to finalize it based on your comments and actually enter it, which keeps the matter moving. We're on a real short construction season to get this done over the summer. But if the board wants it to come back before it's actually executed, you can certainly agendize that.
All right, thank you. I'm sure in the agreement, liability issues are going to be addressed.
So yes, the way the draft agreement is going to work, if approved by this board for Superintendent Fueling to enter it, all issues regarding liability and the other matters that we talked about are covered. In answer to Trustee Walt's question a little bit about what happens if Boys and Girls Club decides to terminate, the agreement is drafted to protect the district in that regard, in the sense that if the Boys and Girls Club vacates the premises for any reason before the termination of the agreement, all improvements vest immediately in the Carson City School District. So we still retain the benefit of the money that was invested. It's very much agreement designed, hoping for the best and planning for the worst, and the district is protected in all aspects in that regard.
Okay, thank you. I just have one. I used to sit in front of that Boardwick Bray a lot of years, picking up my granddaughter and dropping her off. It's not very well controlled there in the mornings or in the afternoons when the kids are being picked up. There's not a lot of space to pick up kids, drop kids off. So I'm wondering, is there going to be some kind of consideration given to the safe access to that daycare, along with everybody else who's going to be there dropping their kids off for school?
Yeah, that's a great question, Trustee Varner. That actually has come up in conversation. So one of the nice things that works out with this, so remember too that it's not that drop off won't happen on King Street. It'll happen behind off of 4th and Thompson. So if you drive down Thompson, you turn on 4th, you're heading into that back lot where the Bray Student Support Services building is. What I think is going to help, and I would say clearly this is a concern and it's something we're thinking about, and we will adjust as we need to. But if our staff work in the secondary schools, they start a little bit earlier. So you're probably going to end up, we're going to open at 6:30, I think was the ish, 7? 6:30 or 7? Okay. So we'll talk about that more too, but the idea that our secondary staff would likely end up dropping off earlier just because school starts earlier. And then our elementary staff, they start a little bit later, so they would drop off later. And then after that, you eventually have our pre-K, those early childhood classes starting up after that. So there is a kind of a natural staggering there, which helps. But clearly it's a concern, and if we're having any issues, we will work to solve any of those for sure.
Thank you. Just one more if I could. Jennifer, based upon your surveys that you've done, how many, I guess, participants from Carson City School District are in need of childcare that might use this?
I believe from our last survey, we got about 67 return of surveys, but we have to, my husband could have filled it out. I filled it out. So therefore, we're accounting for 2 kids when it's 1 kid needed. So those are the fine lines that we would have to fix. But that was based on the age range that this would be for. So it was a nice response.
It sounds like clearly there's a need, and I know that there is. And so thank you, guys. I'm in support of it.
Question generated from these questions. So you're going to be doing the, investing I think you said 135,000 for the renovations. Who then is going to be responsible for the utilities and any, maintenance that may come up?
So we are expecting to cover those costs. To some extent that helps Boys and Girls Club then turn around and offer a lower rate to our staff. So, and really it's not an additional cost in terms of we're already paying those costs right now, right? So but it helps because then Boys and Girls Club doesn't have to pay those.
Sorry, just to add a little bit. The Boys and Girls Club is responsible for maintenance of the areas that they improve and they operate out of. And so it's a portion of a building, which is why it's joint use. And that, I think, is why AJ's saying that we're going to cover the utilities, but the actual upkeep and the day-to-day of the portion that they improve will be borne by the Boys and Girls Club. It's just the surrounding area, the parking lots and utilities that will just stay with the city or with the school district.
So I guess because it isn't a Boys and Girls Club building, it's still the school district, then that's why the rate for tuition or, the weekly rate would be offered less than if they were to bring them to the daycare that's on the Boys and Girls Club now, right?
We have exactly the same rates at both locations. But again, Superintendent Fueling and I can go through, yeah, we're an open book with that. We just need to make it sustainable. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Just one for me. You covered liability. Thank you. Just when I think about insurance, just property damage, injury, things like that. Is that under our insurance? Is it kind of there's no cost to the district, you said, so I assume there's no change in insurance costs, but I don't know if it's covered under our insurance, Boys and Girls Club insurance, or how that works.
The short answer to your question is the agreement's designed to have over-insurance, if anything. In other words, there will be overlapping insurance. The Boys and Girls Club Western Nevada is going to be required to insure not only their activities, but their improvements and everything else. We obviously will continue to insure all of our improvements and everything in the property. Ideally, we will be able to have both parties listed as additional insured for the joint use operation. The insurance requirements are consistent with what we would require with anybody coming into our buildings and making sure that everybody's protected.
All right. Any other questions by the board? If not, this is an action item. A long action item.
I'll go ahead. It is a very long one. So I move that the Carson City School Board of Trustees direct the superintendent to finalize and complete a joint use agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada, under which Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada will provide daycare services to the Carson City community with a priority enrollment granted to Carson City School District staff in a portion of 110 Thompson Street, Carson City, Nevada, owned by the Carson City School District, which will have no fiscal impact to Carson City School District because Boys and Girls Club of Western Nevada will be responsible for all improvements to the daycare area. I further move that the board resolve that the real property at issue is available for this purchase and that this purpose is in the best interest of the Carson City School District.
I would
sorry.
just, before you do, The first time you said purpose, you said purchase, and so I would just correct it to purpose both times.
Sorry, I meant to say purpose.
So we have a motion and a second. You're good? Any further board discussion? Seeing none, do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none? Board, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. I think this will be a nice partnership, and
Thank you.
we appreciate all our partners and Boys and Girls Club. I mean, over the years, you've all been great, so thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I'm afraid our traveling visitors may be getting beaten up by our friends down south. So we're gonna keep cruising forward. Okay, perfect. So we're gonna move on now to item 9, informational update on student support services programs in the school district. This is for discussion only. Dr. Lennox.
Good evening, President Cassiopo and trustees. Thank you so much for this opportunity to come share about student support services. Oh, got the clicker? Oh, okay. Well, shoulder partner, you help me out? There you go. Forward, backwards. Thank you. So I'm Dr. Christine Lennox. I'm the Director of Student Support Services. So again, I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you guys a little bit about our services and the students we serve, my staff, who is absolutely phenomenal to support the staff and the students in the district. I truly believe children are likely to live up what we believe in them. Okay, no bars for them, and we can get them to where their dreams are. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about student support services. We're going to talk about the students in which we serve, support service our teams, and then we're also going to talk about some programs and highlights. And there is a plethora of stuff in this realm, so this is really just the tip of the iceberg, and we're always happy to discuss anything with you. Okay, so the students we serve are students who are on an individual education plan. Okay, we also serve students who are supported by 504 education plans, pre-K, which is a Nevada Ready grant. We support early childhood, which is our 3-year-old program. We are support of a behavior program, the Pyramid Model, which is a 3-year-old program that is in alignment with MTSS. We also have the Behavior Learning and Social Skills Teaching BLAST. We support Homebound, and we also provide Child Find once a month for all the students in our community to identify if there's a student in need of services. Okay. We also have the following grants, and we are very blessed to say that we have an alignment with our district grants department. They do a very big lift for us. We're aligned now, not separate, but IDEA Part B, IDEA Early Childhood, IDE Special Education Projects Grants, which is our Project to Achieve. I'll be talking to you about that. Our Nevada Ready Pre-K, our Pre-K Expansion Grant, and then our Nevada Transition Roadmap through Innovation Partnerships Nevada TRIP. We also support our billing for speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and nurses. So we oversee those programs for the district. Okay? So for our students, there is 13 eligibility categories for a child to qualify under IDEA, okay? We are guided by IDEA and also the Nevada Academic Code. So they tell us which students would fit these services. Currently, the district has about 1,103 students On 504, we have 228 students in the district, and these are all averages. Nevada Ready Pre-K has 142 students, and then early childhood, which is our 3-year-olds, have 43 students. Okay. We have an incredible team, and there's just not enough time to talk to you about how fabulous they are. My assistant director's here with us, and without this team, none of this could happen, okay? So the director, of course, assistant director. My office has and an implementation specialist that is new this year. They go out and support schools directly on a weekly basis. We have 4 office staff. We have psychologists at school and a clinical psychologist. And I note that that is rare for a district to have a clinical psych on contract, but we are fortunate to have that. We have speech language pathologist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, board certified behavior analysis, PhD, and master level. So I like to kind of brag quietly because our other sistering counties don't always have, but we have quite a few highly qualified BCBAs and our RBTs, which is a registered behavior technician. So we are very fortunate in this district to have that team. With that team, we have our teachers. These are all the teachers that fit in the area of the students we serve. We have a special education generalist. We have alternate standards teachers, vision teacher, deaf and hard of hearing teacher, transition teacher, adaptive PE teacher, and special education paraprofessionals. On the pre-K side and early childhood, we have the teacher, this special ed pre-K teacher, paraprofessionals, special education paraprofessionals, and a contractor to help us meet the grant requirements. Okay. For our pre-K program, this is a program that is near and dear to our heart. We are serving students who are 200% below poverty, students who are multilingual learners, and students who receive services on an IEP. It is fully funded by a grant. This is not an expense for our district. It falls to the grant. These programs are defined through the grant, so it's one teacher, one paraprofessional. We do have a special education paraprofessional that supports those classrooms. Currently, there's 8, and we're in 5 elementaries. We're excited that next year that we will be in all 6 elementaries. So Sela Girl will be having a pre-K on campus, which is really nice for students who belong there for their home. We have a partnership with the museum. So Dr. Scott is amazing, and we partner with her and do the second Saturday multilingual story and craft hour, and that is going very well. We're very pleased about that. We're excited that we got the second round of the pre-K expansion grant, and we've been able to partner with the Ready to Rock Kinder to help with that transition for our littles who are coming in and work with them in the summer before their first day of kindergarten. So we're very excited about that. Okay. Our next step program is a post-secondary high school vocational program. This one is for students who are 19 to 22. We support students working toward post-secondary goals for independent employment. And all the skills up there you can see, I don't know that I need to go through them, is what these students are working on and the community partners that support us. And if you look at the community partners, like Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, they come and work with our students in the classroom. But the Senior Center, Computer Corps, Galaxy Theater, the State of Nevada, the Carson City School District, they're all different areas of employment. So depending on a student's interest, they can say they want to do something within cooking, maybe it's Jack in the Box we work with them at. And so we go out in the community and they use their skills and hopefully get employed with gainful employment. Yes, sir.
If you had a student come who had an interest that wasn't covered in there, do you guys have somebody that works with the community and tries to identify somewhere they could fit?
Yes, the teacher's very involved and they work with the Department of Employment. So right now they're currently working on working in a partnership with Carson City, on some other areas, and that's in the works right now. So we try and have as many opportunities for these students and where their interests are, okay?
I just have a quick thing.
Oh,
if I
I'm
could.
so sorry.
Are all these students involved in this high school graduates? I mean, where they graduated and have a...
Yes, so
okay.
the majority of them have already gone through and either received an adjusted or alternate standards diploma, and I don't know if you guys remember, but it's a diploma that is current credit bearing for kids on alternate standards. And then this is like the next step that we're trying to help them transition into their adult. Okay. Okay. Our Project Achieve Special Projects Grant, this is a grant that we started working on in 1920. We are partnering, we're partners with Lion. 2019 and 2020, I'm sorry. Gosh, I apologize, guys. Yeah, so this particular one highlights our students who are in alternate standards. They have connectors and they have alternate standards they're working towards. This grant is to align the curriculum, high quality curriculum. So back in the day, there was a time where we had to make curriculum for them to access. That's not so now. There's a lot of curriculum out there that we are using and supporting our kids with, and we have staff who come and help them. This project supports staff to provide evidence-based professional learning to increase teacher and staff efficacy and instruction in students in alternate standards, that they deserve the same amount of training and support to be successful, okay? Increasing students' inclusion with same-age peers, and that's not just you're in the back of the classroom and we're letting you be here. They are active citizens and participants in those classrooms, okay? Increasing the percent of students with disability scoring proficient on Nevada alternate assessments. Those scores fall into all our students' scores. It's not this separate thing, so we want them to be successful there as well. We train and support teachers and staff in this high-quality instruction. We're very excited. They're getting to go to the ACERS conference. It's American Council for Rural Education, and they're co-presenting with, I think, some folks from Lion to talk about this work we're doing. So this team works very hard. Sean Snyder is the coach with the grant and does a very nice job supporting these teachers and students. We started small with just Fremont, and we have grown, and we're in all the schools now. So Fremont, Bordewick, both middles and the high school. So it's a really good program. Okay, Nevada TRIP is new. It's Nevada Transition Roadmap through Innovation and Partnership. We just received this award. There's 3 pilot districts, Humboldt, I think Lincoln, and ourselves. And what they're trying to do is develop high-quality information systems for that outreach of our students who are transitioning. So like Department of Vocations and stuff is in that. There's like 19 of us participating to create a system that our families have access to. We're not disjointed in this. We provide high-quality professional development to our staff and the availability of students to use the resources in their community. So we're excited to have this particular grant as well. Okay. The pyramid model, as I stated earlier, is a preschool intervention support. It is an alignment. It's the pre-K part of MTSS. It's with partnership with Nevada Reno Center in Excellence in Disabilities. There's a pyramid model partnership. We have Dr. Lee comes down and she coaches our staff. It promotes high fidelity implementation and training for childcare and education, and it supports social emotional competency. So we're very excited about this alignment. This is the first year we've started it, and the staff really seem to be receptive for this. Okay. Our behavior learning and social skills teaching BLAST. This is a partnership with Advanced Child Behavior Solution, and recently from our visit with the state superintendent and our director for Office of Inclusion, they are now partners in this, so they are helping us to continue this work with some fiscal supports and that type of thing. But it's training with evidence-based behavior and social education approaches for our kids K through 5. Okay, it's in the elementary schools. It's for any students significantly behaviorally challenged who spends a majority of their time in the general ed setting. And this service is consistent with, integrated with the MTSS framework and servicing students who struggle in the gen ed. And it is a braided program. It's for students who are in gen ed and students who have services through an IEP. So it's a very nice program that we're pretty proud of what we've done to this point, and an amazing team who has really sat down and worked on this program and the good and the things we need to fix. Okay. This is all the trainings that we provide. The way I look at our office is we are a support system from myself through my staff all the way down. And we want our staff to have what they need. Communication is extremely important to us. So monthly we have special ed coaching. What that entails is we pick like maybe a compliance topic, and then they have time to talk to me about what their concerns are, what their needs are, those type of things. We also do what I call a pulse check. So once a year I try and go around and what's working for you, what's not working for you, what do you need? And then we compile it from a district level to a site level to a personal level on maybe what they need. So special ed coaching is just that really communication piece that I can work with all the staff. We have approximately about 164 staff within student support services. We also have a training database on Google. I love it. There's so many resources in there. So we did a book study with paraprofessionals a few years ago. So we bought them all the books and then did the study. It's all recorded. So if someone wanted to go back, sometimes I have to admit I worry it's like a buffet with too many items in there because there's so many resources there. But all these other items like special education procedures manual, that's accessible to anybody. We have speechpathology.com. We buy for high quality and support for our speech paths, the school psychs, Special Education Connect, Mastery Teacher, Direct Step. Iris is a free resource, but we pull information for that for our teachers. They need it. Goalbook is a data collection system, but we also buy the training modules. TS Gold, Exact Path. We also do a SPED University is what I call. So when we get them for PD Day, we'll set up 2 or 3 and they rotate. And those are some of the examples of what we might offer. We bring in people from, like Dr. Luan and Ken McAleese's team, or maybe someone from the University of the State, and then they get like some work with them and then maybe go on in an hour to the next session, depending on the structure of what we're providing. Okay. So that, like I said, that is just the top of the iceberg of what our team does. I do believe that children given the necessary tools, they will be successful beyond anything we can imagine. So providing our staff and our students what they need from student support service is high priority for our entire team.
Dr. Lennis, I just want to say thank you. I know there'll be questions for you.
Oh.
I think Student Support Services, it's a great program. It serves the district well, so thank you for that. I think with every program, and you alluded to it, it's that communication piece that's really important because you look at things, whether it's from the lens of a parent or the lens of the classroom teacher or the lens of somebody from Student Support Services. I think sometimes there's different opinions on how to proceed. And I think just keeping that line of communication open and hearing the concerns of everybody and, reaching a decision, kind of a combined decision that's in the best interest of the student is where we succeed. And,
absolutely.
And so I appreciate the work that everybody's doing there.
Thank you. And I will say this is highly regulated, like those 13s that we alluded to. We are guided by who qualifies, but we are so fortunate in this district that we have this MTSS process and that alignment. And so before, I would say we had special ed and then gen ed. We have this bridge that is being created and done well now, and it is only going to benefit our students and staff. So it is a very great thing that we're pretty proud of in all those levels. So, yes.
Questions? Rich, then Molly, and then.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work you do. Got thinking about this vocational training, and when I asked the questions, if everybody had a diploma of some type,
yeah.
Is there any possibility of somebody who, for whatever reason, didn't graduate, but they still need a job in some kind of vocation? Is there any possibility of them being involved in that program?
So we do have a criteria, and we work with Dieter because they support us. So we support students who are still in high school. So we do have a little transition there where we have some who are supported there. But any student who has not graduated with the standard diploma, we support till their day before their 22nd birthday. So, whether it's this program or what do they need, transition is very, very highlighted right now to make sure our students have some pathway, right?
All right, thank you. And also, I'd just like to mention on the BLAST program, I was on that tour with the state superintendent, and we got a chance to talk to some of the staff and see the results that you guys are getting. I got to tell you, I was very impressed. The staff seemed very engaged, very dedicated to what they're doing, and they pointed out some successes that has occurred already. So I was really glad to see that, and I support that program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think I went for 2 full years. I was at support services every day, Monday through Friday, not even knowing the extent of what, because you're siloed to what I was doing. I had, my kids went to the early childhood. But, and you're siloed to not even think of what else, goes on in that building. So I commend you for everything that you do, because it is, it's a huge endeavor and you have a lot on your plate. So I commend you for doing the job that you're doing, and you're doing it well. So, congratulations to that as well. And I was, I'm glad that you asked that question about the early childhood with this joint use agreement. And so, sorry, I feel like I'm getting sicker as the night goes on, but I'm really not dying up here. But so I would hope that you are, we supported that joint use agreement, and I hope that you do as well, because it's going to impact you as well.
Absolutely. We are
Okay.
just stewards of the district's properties, and we are just grateful we can be part of this. There is a need in this district, and we are stewards of, what our families need, and we are just grateful that we can help. And I know you guys were asking about our staff, and that's all mapped out. I've done all the whatabouts and have answers for the whatabouts, and I'm just excited we're moving forward now. So
Oh, good.
This is great.
Oh, good.
This
I'm
is
happy
great.
to hear that.
Yeah.
But no, I just want to say thank you again, and being a recipient of your services for when my kids were younger. I still cannot call. I don't even. I know her first name, but it's always going to be, or her last name, but it's always going to be Miss Cassidy.
Oh,
She
Miss
was
Russell,
phenomenal.
isn't she amazing?
She was
Yes.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
Yes.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Lennox, I just want to thank you for accepting our invitation to come and present to us. I knew that the rest of the board members would be very impressed, just as I was when I went and met with you. I believe the students are receiving quality support, and I believe that every student can reach their highest potential if we provide them with the right support. So that's exactly what you and your staff are doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Lennox? Well, Dr. Lennox, thank you very much.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate
much.
your time. Okay, we're going to move on to item 10, discussion and possible action to approve with conditions, or deny a sole source proposal consistent with NRS 332-115A. Said sole source proposal is made by PowerCom for security system services, access control additions, Phase 3 at Carson High School, Carson Middle School, Boardwalk Bray Elementary School, Eagle Valley Middle School, Empire Elementary School, Fremont Elementary School, Fritch Elementary School, Mark Twain Elementary School, Seeliger Elementary School, and Pioneer Academy. The possible fiscal impact is a total proposed amount not to exceed $245,078 inclusive of a base bid and total alternatives. This is for possible action. Don't know why my tongue is so tied tonight, but it is.
Mark Johnson for the record, in keeping with the trustees' report. AJ, you look great. Because of being kind, I'm sharing that. I did a quick review. This will be the third phase of the access control projects. And if you read your executive summary, this is just a part of the security that we've got for the district. But the access controls, this is how we're getting into the campuses now. And the phase 3 closes up that part of it. So we get most of the doors that the teachers can access that now. We started the access control around 2020, about 151,000, 2022, phase 2, about 240,000. This will finish that off. We had a few doors at some of the schools that we couldn't access that we're closing that part of it off. PowerCom did the design and build on both of those first phases, and we want to finish that off, and we want to sole source that, bring PowerCom back to finish that off with us. Sure.
With that key system, say someone loses their key. Can you just from your system go in and deactivate that key and issue the employee a new key?
Yes, we can. We can deactivate all of our keys for teachers. We deactivate them over the summer months and then activate them when they come back. So we're not issuing and reissuing keys every year. Once you receive your badge, you keep that for 3 years. And then we have you come back in and take a new fresh picture.
Perfect, thank you.
And we're able to control which doors can be used by the teachers or by the staff. And they can able to control the way the kids come in from the playground area. And that's where we've had the problems right now. I don't operationally, but the teachers and principals do. We've missed doors through the first 2 phases that the principals come back and said, hey, we've missed this. We're having to use keys to get in. Because right now we're trying to take the keys away for those main doors. So we're coming back and now asking if we could sole source to have PowerCom finish up this project for us. We're hoping we haven't missed any on this, because I've asked Stan to go and ask the principals, what doors have we missed in the operation? And they've scoped it. We walked it with PowerCom. What doors do we need to get? We asked them to prioritize it, and that's what this project is.
Thank you. Number one, I guess my question is always about the budget, right? How are we paying for it? Is it already pre-budgeted in this year's budget?
Yes, it's got budgeted for, I'm going off of memory, $300,000 on bond to pay for this.
So it's out of the bond funding, okay?
Yes.
And then number two, if I could real quick, would this include the PDC building key for that too? Because I know a while back I was hit up about that they don't have
I want to say that was included in phase 2.
I think it was already on there. Yeah, PDC was already on there.
So they have a key there now? So, okay,
Yeah.
so, all right, great.
Would you like for me to move through the PowerPoint presentation? That
Oh,
might
if it's in
answer
there, yeah.
some of the questions
yeah,
that
I'm
you
sorry,
have. Okay, let's
Now
get started.
We're going to skip that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that'd be fine with me.
Didn't know
For
you
the
had
record
one.
of Ann Sear,
Sorry.
the risk manager. Okay, so let's see here. I just wanted to give you some context. As Mark was describing, we have, a project that's been going on here ever since I came to the school district 8 years ago. And actually, even before I came to the school district, that's when the single point entries were installed. And that was our first introduction to electronic access control, because all of those single point entries had these clickers. And so we began, securely opening doors that had been electrified. And that was the first introduction to access control. Also at that time, our surveillance camera system, those were all old analog systems. Recordings were stored locally on DVR devices in closets at each of the schools. There wasn't any consistent retention policy for the records that were stored on these DVRs. But it was all very, very siloed. What we were doing with access control, surveillance, all of these security systems, our intrusion or burglar alarm systems, those had been installed over 25 years ago, and many of them were also aging out approaching end of useful life. And so all of these things were kind of swirling around, if you will, and just getting old and starting to break down. But it was the single point entries that kind of got us started to this path to where we are now, 10 years later. And what we have now is a fully integrated security system. And so all of these security devices, and there are literally hundreds of them, are installed on a central server system, and they are operated on one software platform. So that same method that we use to go in and engage someone's identification badge, their access control badge, is the same software system that we use to go in and change the schedule if we're having a dance at the high school and we need the burglar alarm to arm at a later time. It's the same system that we use to go in and lock doors remotely. It's the same system that we use to go in and view surveillance cameras on. And the way it is integrated on the computer screen, when an event happens, say for instance an intrusion alarm system is activated, we have the ability to, from a laptop remotely from home at 1 a.m, bring up this system and see which door was compromised, which camera is fixed on that door, open up that camera and see what's happening. So that's just, some of the features that an integrated security system offers to a school district or any entity for that matter. So these devices are all attached to the network using internet protocol addresses, and those are assigned by our IT department. And all of that process is managed by the IT department. My department operates the back end of it. We are the end users, but the software itself, the updates to the software, pushing the software updates to all of the end users, the software license, all of those components are managed centrally through the IT department. I just wanted to, and I'm sorry if this is something you're already aware of, and I'm just providing you with a definition of this person, but this person that we use, this company that we use, PowerCom Solutions, they are a system integrator. When we first began using PowerCom, they were introduced to the district as part of an RFP process for the replacement of our surveillance system. And that was when I first became familiar with this, this type of firm, if you will. So a system integrator is a company that designs computing systems that combine hardware, software, networking, and storage products, from multiple vendors. And PowerCom Solutions is the security systems integrator that we've been working with since the replacement of our surveillance system. So they've helped us with the design and implementation of all of this security system. And I point this out because there is a distinction between a company that calls itself a system integrator and a company that simply sells and installs like burglar alarms. And there are a lot of vendors out there that sell products like burglar alarm systems or surveillance camera systems, but they don't necessarily integrate them, and they don't understand the very complex processes that go into integrating those systems. When you are talking with a vendor that falls into that realm of simply selling a burglar alarm system, if they are trying to move into the space of broadening their offerings, they usually do that by partnering with a software vendor that sells packaged systems. And we looked at some of those types of packaged systems when we replaced the surveillance system. And what we found, and I was tutored by Mr. Medeiros, is that oftentimes the hardware components in those packaged systems can be inferior. So the company that's selling the operating software isn't necessarily in the business of including the best hardware components. And a lot of times those systems will be proprietary, meaning if you purchase this software, then you have to use this particular brand of camera or this particular brand of access control system. So a system integrator is a consultant who looks at all of these different types of products and does so in a way that is agnostic to the hardware product. They choose the best software operating system for you, and then they look at the best hardware components and build that system in a way that best serves our needs. Okay, long explanation, but I felt it was important for you to understand that. So as Mr. Johnson mentioned, the proposal that you have before you this evening completes the design and build out of a baseline access control system district-wide. And by baseline, I mean that we have identified primary entrances and primary entrances and gates. Sorry. So it does not include adding access control to every single classroom door or even every single exterior door. So we still have secondary entrances, exterior entrances, and over time, the district may want to look at expanding the scope. But at this point in time, we have completed what would be considered a baseline access control system that is consistent at all locations so that we have identified primary entrances, as well as the sensitive interior work areas such as IT closets or what we call IDF rooms. So over time, this system could continue to be built out. And of course, every time we complete renovations or we do an addition, we add access control and other security system elements onto that project. So I just wanted to touch with you on some of the exemptions for requirements for competitive solicitations, as we are requesting that you approve a sole source contract. I did talk with Mr. Russell regarding this, and he did confirm that this contract was exempt from competitive solicitation for nearly all of the elements that are defined under NRS. So I haven't listed all of them here, but essentially contracts which by their nature is simply not adapted to that type of process. Number one being professional services, which is what a systems integrator is. Additions to and repairs and maintenance of equipment, which may be more efficiently added to or repaired or maintained by a certain person. And we have been having PowerCom complete all of these additions and repairs and maintenance over the past 6 years. And then just the system itself is comprised of hardware, software, and the maintenance and support for this system, all of the peripheral equipment that's attached to it. This is essentially a very complex computer system. I think I've just explained how a fully integrated security system, how that works, who's servicing it. It's serviced by the IT department. And lastly, I would just like to add, although it's not defined specifically in state law, the information concerning our security systems is classified, it's sensitive, it's for official use only. Disclosing that information, system maps and locations of these assets would, potentially jeopardize school security. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Oh, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here. So do you have then staff for updates, maintenance, if technology fails, or is there going to be like a, this is a build-in, is there going to be a monthly, charge for PowerCom to come back in and, fix those issues?
So the system is primarily maintained by our IT department. In my department, I have a security technician, which was a position that we added just over a year ago. and he does the day-to-day maintenance of things like cameras not working, or someone's access control badge not working, or a door just not speaking with the system. He'll run over and reset the server and handle those day-to-day type things. And we really try to limit the number of service calls that we have from PowerCom. And they've actually done a really good job of kind of coaching him into this position so that they don't have to have as many service calls. And they can focus really on just the installation and the design and assisting us when we have renovations or additions. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think the system's important. You know, school, child safety is our number one priority, student safety. I was wondering about, when I read through this, there's a license fee. Is that an ongoing license fee every year, or how does that work?
At this time, we have a multi-year license, which is pretty much the way our IT department does with like our Microsoft licenses. So when the license agreement came in, I sent it to Mr. Medeiros, and he reviewed it and advised me on which multi-year license agreement he would be comfortable going with.
When that expires, what's it going to cost to continue the licensing? If you know.
Right off the top of my head, Trustee Varner, I don't know. I would ballpark it at around $50,000 for 5 years. It's directly related to the number of users and the number of devices attached to the network. So as we continue to build it out, it gets repriced.
And with this new equipment we're installing now, is there a warranty period if something goes wrong? Is it warranted for a while?
Yes, there's a warranty on the device. Do you recall seeing the warranty in the proposal? Yeah.
Usually there's a warranty on every construction for at least 1 year, and there might be more on specific items of more than that. But for everything, when there's construction, there's at least 1 year on parts and warranty, but there might be more on other items.
So I know PowerCom's warranty is 1 year, and then the manufacturer of the devices themselves, they have additional devices, the warranties on the card readers themselves.
I think it's important to go with the same company, but my question just, I didn't see it up here, but is there any prohibition about the amount of money the sole source is?
No, this is really specifically the type of contract that is meant to be covered by this statute. It's exactly in line with what they were trying to achieve.
Irregardless of the amount of money. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Varner, if I may, I would also say that, Mr. Johnson presents rough estimates, budgets to the Capital Improvements Committee, and that's, where we develop a budget for this. So if there was ever any sort of, perceived overage or concern about us not budgeting correctly for that, then that's something we would certainly bring back to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. This is an action item.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Okay. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve a sole source proposal made by PowerCom for security systems services, Phase 3 access control additions at Carson High School, Carson Middle School, Bordewick Bray Elementary School, Eagle Valley Middle School, Empire Elementary School, Fremont Elementary School, Fritch Elementary School, Mark Twain Elementary School, Seeliger Elementary School, and Pioneer Academy, which approval has a possible fiscal impact not to exceed $245,078, inclusive of a base bid and total alternates. This motion is premised on the Carson City School District's prior dealings with PowerCom and PowerCom's unique ability to fill this need.
Motion second by Trustee Waltz. Any further board discussion? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And Mark, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 11, discussion and proposed changes to CCSD Policy 503, compulsory attendance age, first reading. This is for discussion only. Tasha Fuson.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. Tasha Fuson for the record. Assembly Bill 65, passed during the 2023 legislative session, necessitated revisions to NRS 392.040 regarding the date by which a child must be of a certain age to be admitted to kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and first grade. So while those changes are reflected in the revisions proposed for the regulation, I intended to bring this to you to discuss our policy because it has not been updated since 2012. So there's very minor revisions that I'm suggesting to the policy. Again, just really wanting to make sure that you have the ability to review it. When you look at it, you can see we simply added Carson City School in front of district in the body of the paragraph. And then you can see some NRS that has been straight through under references. For those NRS numbers that have been removed, really it's because in the review of the policy, I did not feel that they were really pertinent to the content. So NRS 392.040, which was left, that's really state law and compulsory attendance. NRS 388.060 actually gives the board the right to have kindergarten within the district, didn't really seem pertinent. NRS 388.040 had to do with school zoning. And then the other two NRS really had to deal with special education law, and they've actually been renumbered. So I just figured it would be cleaner to strike it through and only use the NRS that pertains specifically to compulsory attendance. So those are the changes that the minimum changes I'm recommending to to this policy. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, if there are no questions, this is the first reading, so it's for discussion only. So we'll move on to item 12. Discussion on proposed changes to CCSD Regulation 503, compulsory attendance age. Again, for discussion only. Tasha Fuson.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. So as I previously stated, it was Assembly Bill 65 of the 2023 legislative session that changed the first day of, changed NRS from the first day of school to August 1st. Really the reason for that is if you remember back in 2021, it was actually switched from September to the first day of school. And even though districts gave feedback to our legislators that there's 17 districts in the state of Nevada and we all have a tendency to have different start dates, that we suggested at that point in time and having a set start date. Our requests really weren't heard at that point of time. So interestingly enough, as we knew would occur, is when we implemented that change to the first day of school, it created issues. Obviously, you might have, for instance, as you know, Carson City School District starts school about 2 to 3 weeks before Lyon. So a student could potentially start school in Lyon County School District, either in pre-K or kinder, but not be able to start school in the Carson City School District, right? So it just created the issues, and that was our feedback back to NDE and to our legislators. And so it was then changed in 2023 to have that very solid date of August 1st. The one thing to note is that this was just passed and it was implemented this school year. We were able to offer up some exemptions. So for instance, if a student had completed pre-K last year, regardless if they met that August 1st birth date, if they were in between the August 1st and the first day of school, they were allowed to start kindergarten because they had completed pre-K. If they had completed kindergarten, we put them into first grade. We weren't required to hold them back. And if they had attended pre-K in a private pre-K or in a home pre-K, if you will, and they wrote an affidavit, the family did submitted saying that they had completed that pre-K, we accepted it. Those exemptions will not be permitted for the 24-25 school year. In other words, the way the law is written is in order to enter pre-K in our state, you will have to be 4 by August 1st. In order to enter kindergarten, you will have to be 5 by August 1st. So even if you attended like a private pre-K, that doesn't get you into kinder. So this does have an impact on some of our families in that we do have families that will come in and want to, of course, enroll their children, and we might have to have them repeat pre-K. The difference to that is if they have completed a public school or an actual accredited like kinder program, because some of our daycares, for instance, have kinder programs in there, then you can allow them, once they've completed it, we can allow them to enter into first grade. It is very interesting. The hardest part for our families is we might have a family, for instance, who comes to us from another state, students in the middle of their kindergarten year. The student does not meet our designation of August 1st being that date. It could be January, and they could have already attended over a semester of kindergarten, and we are not permitted by state law to allow them to continue in kinder. I think it's very important you realize that, and the way we're held accountable for that is when we are audited by NDE at the end of the year. If the students do not meet that requirement, we lose student apportionment for it. In other words, we don't receive state funding for that student to be in school. So that's how we're held accountable to that. And then we have to write a corrective action plan saying that we're going to follow state law moving forward. So I know when I get calls, I have received many calls over the past 3 years since the dates have been changing, just asking me to be super nice and let this kid slide through, and just can't you let this child slide through? And I have to explain, well, the problem is, if we make that exception against the law, then we will not receive funding for the student, and then I will have to write a corrective action plan. It's not something that we can just be nice about. But it was important that we got our regulation and policy and regulation updated as we are going to start kinder enrollment at the beginning of the first week in March. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
So NRS still states, though, that it is the first day of school. But
Right,
you're
NRS.
asking to just have the regulations say August 1st.
So NRS takes a while to get updated.
Okay.
So the legislative session, Assembly Bill 65, set the start date, the effective date, as July 1st of 2023. Then we received guidance from the Department of Education giving us direction on how we were to handle that. So I understand that current NRS has not been updated yet, but it has been changed effective of that Assembly Bill passing, and then with an effective date, and then us getting guidance from NDE.
All right, looks like you covered it pretty well. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to item 13. Presentation by the superintendent on the state of the district. Informational overview for the Carson City School District for the 2023-2024 school year and beyond. This is for discussion only. Superintendent Fueling.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. I will say, not really in Tasha's defense, but just on that item, there are things that have been passed during legislative sessions that are still not updated in NRS from prior sessions, which is incredibly frustrating. I don't understand that, but anyway. Okay. So I thought I'd start with this, and kudos to Dan Sadler. He couldn't be here this evening. He put me on to this website, the Nevada State Historical Archives, I think it is something like that, where you can search by keyword. And so found some great old Carson City School District pictures. So this is the Carson High football team from 1929. So Jack is kind of a big deal. I have no idea who he is. But just below him is Ryan Russell. So Ryan Russell's just below Jack there. So, but this picture just struck me, it's 100 years ago almost. And I don't know, I love this kind of stuff. So I kind of peek out. But I thought you'd appreciate that. I'll try to. I really want to get some of these pictures up and around in the district office. There's probably about 15 I have of just some good old, like the 1909 or 1910 basketball team and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat. Okay, so this is my first attempt at a state of the district. I would just say, if you have any thoughts on things to add in the future, or modify, just please let me know. You don't have to let me know today, but you can just email me and we'll keep refining this over time. But what I really focused on was trying to keep a consistent data source with all of this. I was using the Nevada Report Card website. So if you're not familiar, Nevada Report Card, we have a list now that is, I think, 3 pages long of all the different reports that at the district level we have to do and send to the state. And this is an ongoing issue with the superintendents, and we're going to try to change some of that during the next legislative session. But some of that information then is aggregated into the Nevada Report Card. So I've tried using that for data points. A lot of the data, all of it is effectively a year old, right? But even if it's coming from the last school year, that's the most recent data we have. And in real time, it's hard to track some of these things. But I think it's a good sense of how things are going. And then talking a little bit, just kind of an overview of just other district activities, things that are of importance going on. So hopefully it's interesting. So first, talking about students. So actually the enrollment part is not from Nevada Report Card, but just in general, we have clearly seen a downward trend in enrollment since the 2002-2003 school year. There's been ups and downs, but with clearly reduced birth rates in the city, if you go back to 2000, I think the high point I recall is like 2006, we had over I think there was a year we had over 850 births in Carson City, and now we're sitting around like, kind of hover between like 520 and 540. So it's definitely decreased over the past 15 years. With all the new construction that we're seeing, we definitely are not seeing the number of students coming out of that we would have expected. So that's hurting that. And I think otherwise housing affordability, which is an issue not only for buyers, which you usually think of it, but even for sellers, because ultimately, if you're going to sell your home, you might need another mortgage to buy something else, and it's more expensive because interest rates have gone up. So I think that has just kind of hamstrung the community. So this shows you historical enrollments going back to the 1990-1991 school year. Some of you may be represented in this data if you graduated during that time. But I think, again, if you look at that 2002-2003, that's kind of the high point. And there was a bit of a roller coaster going into just before the pandemic. It was increasing a bit. But even that reflects some changes in how they counted kindergartners back in the 17-18 year. So they're counted a little bit more valuably at that point. But really, it's incredible to me to look at where I think that enrollment is going to hit this year, and that's basically where we were 30 years ago in terms of enrollment. If you remember back in I believe it was in the fall, we had a professional enrollment projection study that was done, and I think this just kind of supports what seems to be happening. Where if you look kind of smack in the middle, there's the K-12 overall numbers, and just as you go forward in years, because of some of the issues that I mentioned earlier, just expecting enrollment really to decline over time. A couple weekends ago, I've been thinking about enrollment a lot, just as kind of a long-term, I don't know if it's a problem to solve, but something certainly to deal with. But taking our current kindergarten class, so our current junior class is about 620 kids, I believe. Our current kindergarten class is about 410. And so that's an incredible difference in terms of when those kids turn over and graduate out. It'll be interesting to see where our kindergarten class is next year, but that kindergarten class is by far the smallest class in our district. But to actually plot out and say, if that kindergarten class just kept going year after year after year, what does that end up looking like when they're seniors? And this was a bit of an eye-opener, to say the least. So I realized there's a lot going on the screen. The upper part, if you don't want to, you don't have to worry about. That's just the current enrollment. And this is just kindergarten through 12th grade. It's not counting pre-K. But down below then, this is effectively the 2035, 2036 school year. But assuming that that kindergarten class we currently have just keeps moving along the same size every year, that is not going to happen exactly, but it just to have some kind of sense of what that could potentially look like, that it's an incredible reduction in students in the district. And so I plugged in what the current per pupil amount is that we're receiving for funding, and you can see that's about a $15 million decrease in funding if we had that level of students right now. And so it really gave me pause in terms of, we really, as much as like there's a lot of time here and clearly things can change, I think being really cognizant of taking advantage of opportunities as they present themselves, to make changes within the district, structural changes in how we operate within the district, because clearly there's going to be pressure over time as enrollments fall. Even if it's not exactly like this, the trend is definitely there. And it's a bit worrisome, but it's also, there's time, right? Time, and maybe things eventually turn around. Are there any questions about this? Okay. So breakdown of our enrollment. We are a majority minority district, 46.1% Hispanic, 44.24% white. And again, this is last year. So now all of this information is coming from Nevada Report Card. As far as our special programs, 14% of our students qualify or have an IEP, so qualifying for special education services. A little over 12, sorry, I forgot the percentage sign there. A little over 12% are English learners, and 70.81% qualify for free and reduced lunch. I don't believe that last number. With COVID, it's been really weird because every child has eaten for free now this is the third year, and there isn't the same, you don't need to fill out a free and reduced application to qualify. So I would say I don't know if it's higher or lower, but I just have a hard time believing that that is the exact number based on historically how that number was generated, just because of where we are. Next year, meals will not be free for everyone in the district. We go back to the traditional model where there's paid, and then if people apply for free or reduced lunch, if families do, they may qualify for it. But it's not just going to be free for everyone starting next year. So we'll have a better sense of where that number lies then. Just compared to the state, so it's the same numbers on the left. On the right, you can see that the state has a slightly lower overall percentage of students with IEPs, slightly higher percentage of English learners, slightly higher percentage of those qualifying for free and reduced lunch. And really, it's important to keep in mind when you're thinking about the average for Nevada, you're talking about Las Vegas, right? They make the average for the most part. Washoe influences it a little bit, and we're pretty small in that. So, a couple interesting stats. One is unique to Nevada in that not every state collects this, but something called transiency, and really just in a straightforward way, kids not finishing the year in the same school that they started it. The the national average is estimated to be somewhere around 8 to 9%. So Nevada is far higher than that. And it's estimated that the impact of kids not finishing the year in the same school they started is almost equivalent to them being an English learner in terms of the negative impact on their learning. Because you're getting a new teacher, it's a new situation, you have new kids you're around that maybe you're friends with, maybe you're not. And so it's just a really a difficult thing for a kid. They need consistency to be able to maximize growth. And Nevada, I think as we know, is just not, like, it is a transient state. People come and go. So I just thought that was interesting. And so Carson's a little bit better than some other parts of the state, but it's still more than double what's considered to be the national average. Elementary class size ratios. And I tried to pull districts that were close to us, or at least kind of close in size to us, just to show comparisons. But at least through the elementary levels, because the state actually takes account of those on a regular basis. So you can see that we're pretty well in line with the class size requirements. There's the traditional class size requirements and what are called the alternative or ELCO model requirements. And we, actually every rural district uses the alternative requirements. So what that does is it actually allows us to have slightly higher ratios in kindergarten through kindergarten through third grade. But then in exchange for that, we have to keep our ratios lower in fourth and fifth grade. In the real class size rules, it's only about kindergarten through third grade. Fourth and fifth aren't looked at all by the state. And so that's where you look at Clark and Washoe. Clark and Washoe, they cannot choose the alternative model, and that's why their fourth and fifth grade numbers are so much higher than what you see in all of the rural districts. But I guess overall, just in terms of being in line with other districts and not staffing at ridiculous levels that you hear of in some other places, we're at least here at the elementary level doing really well. This is partially taken from the Nevada report card, but partially not, because it didn't go back this far. This is just the data that I had going back on graduation rates as far as I had it. So there have been some changes over the years to what graduation requirements were. So every one of these numbers is not exactly the same as the next number on there, but it at least gives you a sense of how we have been compared to the state over time. One of the interesting things with this is that as much as we have dropped here going into 2023, and the state in this year actually was slightly above us. As I mentioned before, the state is effectively Clark County, right? Because Clark County is so big. So their graduation rate moves that average. Clark County made an adjustment to their grading policy last year or the year before, where if a child gets a 0, they get a 50%. And so in terms of, like, if you're saying like your lowest grade you can get is a 50%, it reduces the number of overall failures you're going to have, and so it helps graduation rates. So I don't know if it's really apples to apples in terms of comparing that. I mean, I think what's most important is clearly ours is trending downward, and clearly the impact of the pandemic, and that's what we want to reverse. But I just think it's important in context to know there's been some changes there. Students needing remediation. So students that end up enrolling in Nevada system of higher education, what % of them have to be remediated? So of all of the districts here represented, Carson City is actually the lowest. And that to me is a really telling number of any district, or of kind of the ones that are local to us or otherwise larger, similar size, that our students apparently are the best prepared when they go into college. So I think that says a lot. Student attendance, and so I have this going back to just before pandemic and then this last school year, just so there's a sense of what the change in percentage of average daily attendance for students. So you can see every district has been impacted. Their attendance rate has dropped from before the pandemic to after, and I guess just getting a sense of this is, if you looked at this across states, you're all going to see the same thing. This is across the country an issue. Related to that, then chronic absenteeism, when kids are missing more than 10% of the school year or 18 days, what those percentages and how those look over time. So you can see the difference. Carson, we were at about 15% before pandemic, almost 30% after. Washoe, you see there's actually even a larger increase there. That kind of stood out to me. But again, just, the effect is real and the problem is real, and something that we continue to need to really focus efforts on. So looking at staff, so how our district breaks down: 27 school administrators, 504 certified staff, 390 classified staff, 17 district or non-represented staff. So we have about 938 people altogether. The costs for all those people, about 88% of the costs, what we budget for, are in the schools. 12% is outside. So transportation costs, maintenance, grounds, warehouse operations, district office, and the professional development center. I consider all of those outside the schools, even though clearly these are people who impact the schools. Our maintenance guys would probably be mad because they're in our schools every single day fixing stuff, but I just don't have them assigned necessarily into a specific school. So, but just gives you a sense of, I think overall, the emphasis of trying to put money as close to the classrooms as we can. So this is leadership costs. This is from Nevada Report Card as well. And I think this is really important to point out. So when you look at what percent of our budget is going towards leadership personnel, so this is district and school leadership, we are at 6%. And you look at all these other districts, and they're generally at 8% or higher. And to try to quantify that, if we went from 6% to 8%, that would mean we would be spending an additional $1.5 million on district level administrators for the most part. School level administrators, we actually staff pretty close to what other districts do. It's more at the district level that I think you would see some of this difference, which, I mean, you're talking about 7 to 10 probably additional administrators. So we run lean at the top, and I think that causes us to be a bit scattered at times because we're trying to handle, wearing more hats, I guess, in that respect. But I think it's just important to understand that given, as far as our staff teachers having good ratios of students within classrooms, not as low as I certainly would like. I would love to have even fewer students per classroom. But in terms of how we are spending our funds, clearly we are not trying to pad on the leadership side. Teacher attendance they actually have on this too. One of the things, and for some reason I was having trouble with this, but we were the only district that actually ticked up from what this was before the pandemic, which I think goes just to say how dedicated our folks are and everything they've been through, that this number, every other district, this went down. Pulling in some results from our JAX survey. So this was a survey sent out at the end of June, or at the beginning of June, at the end of the school year last year. But just a sense overall of, I think, how people are feeling in the district. We had over 400 respondents, so it's a very high response rate, something that we look to increase next year. I think overall this is just kind of a good indicator. Longitudinally, hopefully we can track these kind of things. But believing that that our staff work in an atmosphere where there's mutual respect. Overwhelmingly, if you look at the total, so you're at about 88% of people who at least feel positive about that, either somewhat agree, or strongly agree. Value and investment given to my learning opportunities within the scope of their work, 83% are in the positive with that one. I believe staff members are recognized for their performance at my work site, 82% in the positive. I believe I get valuable feedback from my supervisor, 82% in the positive. I believe my work atmosphere at my site is positive and inviting, 88% to the positive. I believe I have opportunities to work within a team to achieve goals, 88% to the positive. I believe I can contribute to decision-making within my role at my site, 83% to the positive. I believe what I do is important, 99% to the positive. So I think just an overall good sense of, like, we're not perfect, clearly, but overall I think we're doing well by our staff, and effort is being made to continue down that path. Just general district activities, things that are going on. You continue to hear about multi-tier systems of support, MTSS, and as I learn more, it is something that I really support more and more in terms of trying to help frame what we do in schools and what we're trying to do for kids. This kind of the triangle and the levels of support and how we are adjusting to the different tiers as kids need them. I think to a great extent, like, we were always doing this, but we never maybe thought of it in kind of a formalized structure that all these things matter to kids. Like, good instruction matters. Helping kids make good behavior decisions matters. Children's mental health matters. All those things will help build a child that is ready for the future. So supporting all of those pieces, and a lot of work continues there. Related to that, our district intervention assistance team, the DIAT team, that goes around to help schools if they're having any issues with students in any of these areas and they're not exactly sure what to do, going in to support them to try to help get those kids back on path. We have our schools have submitted their performance plans to NDE. We have not gotten any feedback from that yet. We are in the middle of a district needs assessment that is being done to support our district performance plan, but we actually can't do our district performance plan yet because we're waiting for guidance from NDE, and this has been taking a really long time. So I'm not sure. I'm hopeful it'll get along there soon, or Mrs. Fuson might throw something. Continued work to expand or robustify, and that I checked, that is a word. Our professional development and training for staff, it slowly just trying to make it better along the way. We continue as a low-risk grantee on state financial risk assessments, which is a good thing, just meaning we have good processes. We get audited by the state on this. And so of all of our ESSER grants that we receive, and there's a significant amount of money there, we spent down 99.95% of all the funds that we were awarded. So that was kudos to the grants department for helping manage the chaos of that time and hopefully making the most out of those funds. Our McKinney-Vento program, just the amount of support for this program from the community is just incredible, and it just continues to grow. So I just think that's a highlight of where we are. English Learner Program serving about 930 students. 14% of our elementary students last year exited their program, so a good percentage of kids moving on. And I think just in general, engagement with leadership of Dr. Tanya Scott, trying to do so much more with engagement of families and our principals, hosting some interesting nights and days, some Saturdays around the district, giving opportunities for our Hispanic families to engage, which has been a really positive change. Recently bonded for about 25 million. Lots of capital work project happening. One of those things you heard tonight, the access controls, focus on safety, focus on some programming, and otherwise just focus on aging infrastructure. Our buildings are getting older. And it's scary to me because I don't know, I don't know that we're really going to have the funding over time to take care of them the way they need to be taken care of and or replaced. You know, and I'm sorry I use this example all the time, but between 1988 and 1992, we built Empire Elementary, Mark Twain Elementary, Fremont Elementary, and we combined 2 buildings to make the full Carson High School. And right now, we would have to not do any projects for over 10 years just to have enough to hopefully replace 1 elementary school, just because of the way tax caps and abatements have impacted how much we collect in revenue. Clean financial audits for at least for the 10th consecutive year. That's when I started, and so I'm pretty sure we had them before then. At least I know this number, so I just thought I'd use that. Mr. Sadler within HR, actually Jennifer Williams, who's here for the Boys and Girls Club item. She's a part of this team, the radar team, trying to help focus on recruitment and retention efforts. So that continues on, and just really appreciate the work that Mr. Sadler has done with that. And then legislative advocacy. I cannot believe that we are less than 365 days away from start of another legislative session. So they just keep coming. So you know, it's not necessarily representative of everything, but it gives you a good sense of some of the things going on in the district and how we were doing. I feel like someone just walked in the room.
You know, AJ, I mean, I think we've done a great job with our district and keeping up our buildings and doing additions where we can and all those things. And we were at these last couple conferences, and can't remember which school district it was, but there were a couple. They were talking about the age of their facilities and their buildings, and they're really, I mean, kudos to them. They're doing the best they can, but I mean, they're holding some of these buildings up with tape and wire. I mean, it's challenging for all these districts. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, there's, you know, so I think what we've been able to do, you know, partly thanks to you and others certainly, has been really remarkable. So anyway, any questions for Superintendent Fueling? All right. We're going to move on then to item 14. Do we want to?
President.
Yeah. Before we move on, yeah, we've got, we're going to move back to item 7 so we can get you guys going. You're probably getting a little tired.
Wade, as you're coming up, I just have one question that Laurel and I have been waiting for months. Where are the Spurs? You promised Spurs.
So let me introduce you real quick, but this is going back to item 7, informational update from the Nevada Association of School Boards, NASB. This is the discussion only item, and we have Rick Harris and Wade Paulson. Thank you guys for coming here. We, you know, we think this is a pleasant way to wrap up your evening, so welcome to Carson City School District.
Wade Paulson for the record, president of NASB. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for giving us consideration. I do have to say one thing. I know why there's not a lot of people here. All the doors were locked. And so that's one way of keeping all the public out, is keeping all the doors locked. Maybe Douglas County can take a few hints. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for allowing us to come. We just wanted to come and represent NASB as president of NASB. I know all of you and have met all of you and have worked closely with a lot of you. And we just want to appreciate your membership in NASB, and we appreciate all that Carson City has done on our behalf. And we think it's a great organization, and its members, all the school districts across the state of Nevada. We just wanted to kind of make a Nevada tour this year and go to all the school districts meetings and see governance at work, whether it's messy or whether it's really good. And but it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing us to be here. And is there any questions that you would like to ask?
Well, I don't have a question, but I'm a big believer in NASB and the work you guys are doing. I think the executive director, you've done a really good job with a lot of professional development classes, a lot of good conferences we've had with a lot of good training. Wade, I know you can be a great president for this year, and just appreciate the things that you guys are doing.
Thank you. I did tell Mike and Laurel that I was going to wear Spurs today. I did not. I chose not to, but I did wear my hat.
And for the record, I'm Rick Harris, and I have the privilege of being the executive director of NASB. And for the sake of time, I would just like to echo what Wade said. We just appreciate you so much, and that's one reason why we recognized you at our annual conference, the school board of the year right here, right, and the superintendent. You know, you guys are just knocking it out of the park, and we just appreciate your partnership, and we just look forward to continuing to collaborate with you and growing and learning together. So thank you for being part of a great organization.
We want to thank you for taking time to hang out with royalty. So.
We do have a question for you. Is there anything professional development-wise that you would like to see NASB do this year? Is there any area that you would like us to focus on? Any of those kind of things? So we'd like to get some feedback, if you have any, on what we can do better and what we can do going forward. Obviously, we have some professional development and a directors meeting and an executive committee meeting coming up in March 15th and 16th. The professional development on the 16th, and it is up here.
Yes, it's up here, and it's at the
Sure Stay.
Yeah, Sure Stay across the street. We used to have stuff there a long time ago when it used to be the Airport Plaza. We went over there because the room's bigger, and we're inviting all of the northern legislators to that meeting to have breakfast with us that day. We're kind of using that day to gear up for next year. You know, this year was the first day with the legislator we've had at NASB, and we're already gearing up for next year. Also, February 22nd, which I know several of you guys are registered for, we have our online course that we're teaching. That's the first one that we've done since I've been on board. I'm excited about that one too. And then in April, we'll be back in Las Vegas.
Yes, thank you for coming. So you asked what we would like to see, and as this new school board member, the first one I attended was in January, and it was on at the very beginning. The Department of Education came in and they talked about the different bills, you know, that were going to be affecting education. You know, if you're asking, you did. So I would like to be able to see that again, but if there's any opportunity that we could have the presentation earlier, because I believe it was, we had it and it was just like 2 weeks before legislation started. So I don't know if that's possible, but I think it was really relevant. If it's not possible, then I would still like to see that happen again in January, right before the legislative session starts, and maybe just even do a whole day of all, because I felt that it was, you know, pretty rushed.
Yeah.
But I felt that it was extremely relevant. A lot of questions were generated, and I don't know that we had enough time, you know, to get the answers or even prepare the presenters for the answers. But I think a day like that would be extremely relevant and informative for us to say, okay, you know, somebody do the homework that we don't want to do. Go out there, find all the education bills, and give us a recap of that. That would be great.
Yes, I would just add, and I said that at the president's workshop, that I really think we've always had really good trainings through NASB, and I think, Rick, since you've been involved, I think that level has gone up a notch, and I appreciate that. And I think the reason I like it is it's been real common sense, well-rounded education. We've had good speakers. We've had opportunities to collaborate. I thought this president's get-together was a really nice thing. I think I might even consider, well, if you would consider opening it up to like the president-elects and whatnot, because I think I know ours included, is kind of new in this role and trying to learn, and being exposed to, other presidents and whatnot it's informative, and it helps kind of gauge, where you're at. Gives you a level of confidence that maybe some people don't have yet. But I'm going to think about, things to improve, because I think you've done a great job. And I don't have anything off the top of my head that, boy, we haven't done this yet, we should do it. But I'd like to think about that and certainly personally get back to you on that.
Well, we're blessed with having wonderful facilitators like Mr. Ryan Russell over there.
Yeah. Sorry, who? Laurel?
I just was going to make a comment because Nevada is one of the only states that statutorily requires school board members to receive training. And so NASB is the leading source of that training in Nevada, and provider. I mean, there's other ways that you can get the training, but this is a very convenient way to get it, because it's dealing not with other city concerns, but with issues pertinent to school boards and school board members. I do think, though, the certified public CP, what is it?
CPO, the CPO.
Yes, certified public officer. Okay, yeah. That is great that that's coming back. For those of you that don't, it kind of went away during the pandemic because someone from UNR retired, and then there was a little mix of it. But this is training that you can get to become a certified public official, and Pool Pack, it just helps you govern better when you have it. And Pool Pack does donate $1,000 to anyone who earns that program. So I'm happy to see that coming back.
And just lastly, I just wanted to say the conference that was in December, I've been to several conferences, and I have to say every single workshop I attended was so unbelievably informative. Yeah, I mean, I tell everybody that, I mean, it was so well worth every minute. I mean, it was kudos to all of the presenters that you had. Everyone I attended I learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and just because Rick won't toot his own horn, I'll tell you, this summer, Wade and I spent a lot of time traveling around with Rick in every airport, every plane. He had his laptop out, and that's what he was working on. So he did a great job. Rick was the power behind that conference.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any questions or comments for them? Yeah, Rich?
One of the things that I think that I personally struggle with, and I think some other people in other districts, is when it comes time for the superintendent evaluation. I don't know if there's any kind of training that could be provided on how to better evaluate the superintendents. And then maybe, I know when we first started, we had the SMART goal presentation or training, and maybe that again.
Yeah, we're actually going to do some strategic planning best practices at the March meeting. We're kind of weaving it in. So you'll get that one right away. But the superintendent evaluation is important, and we'll make sure we have more of those.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we have struggled in Lincoln County on our superintendent evaluation. We used to have this 52-page, mark me 1 through 5. I mean, it was just like unbelievably thick and long, and it was, her hair color is okay, and the clothes they wear is great, and they're professional in every way. And we trashed that a few years ago, right? Because it was like, and maybe I might be the instigator on that one, because I was like, oh, I don't know if she does this, or because our superintendent's a woman, I don't know if the superintendent does this. I don't know. It asked a lot of questions about stuff that we don't do as a board, you know? And so we got rid of it. And then I think we kind of went the opposite direction, and we tried to center all of her evaluation around the goals of the district. And we had a few goals, and then we tied her evaluation to student achievement, you know, and student outcomes. And so we did that for a couple of years, and now we realize that we probably need to add a little bit more into it. So I appreciate that, because we have been struggling with how to evaluate the superintendent correctly and honestly and fairly, and getting all the information, and, you know, going from this big evaluation to a smaller evaluation. Now we realize we need to expand it a little bit, and what is a good, fair evaluation to a superintendent? And I truly believe that it should be centered around the district goals. You know, you school board members set the goals for the district, you know, and you have your goals, and it has to be centered around those, plus with other aspects of their job. And so we're kind of trying to flesh that out. We just had a workshop, actually, January 25th, and we went through the superintendent evaluation. And then last night, at Lincoln County School Districts, we went back through that and refined our goals, and expanded upon that. So we're struggling in that area also. So I think that'd be good.
I think, so I think what would be really helpful in the context of superintendent eval, you know, you have, you know, we're going to talk about goals here in just a little bit, but between the strategic plan and goals, and then our state's, you know, our district performance plan as defined by the state, right? Like, there's so many things out there that we're trying to be accountable to, and it's all good stuff. But I think if there was any way to kind of help districts kind of, you know, whittle it down to that, like how that eval attaches to all that and alignment of all that, I think that would be really helpful for districts. And it might not just be a NASB thing. I mean, maybe NAS is, you know, needing to be helpful within that too. But I see that as a struggle. And I know Mrs. Fuson and I talked about that quite a bit in trying to formulate some stuff over the last year, and just like we're constantly, it seems like we're always waiting for an E maybe to kind of move things along, but you know, we're trying to think of this in a bigger picture and really have this alignment through everything, which I think ultimately feeds to that superintendent eval as well. So I think any ideas or work you guys know of or have, I think would be really, it'd be good for everyone in the state, I think.
And I think one of the things, just to build on that, is just like evaluations for teachers, we don't want it to be something we're doing to the teacher.
Right.
It's a conversation with the teacher. And so one of the most important things a school board needs to do is work with the superintendent, because the goals of the superintendent should be the goals of the board. And so there should be that shared vision. And, you know, it's hard when you have a new superintendent, because even though we've worked with AJ for a long time, he's coming into this role and we're getting used to him as the superintendent and kind of setting those. And so really, I think not just an effective evaluation system, but skills to truly have open and honest conversations and goal setting as a team, as opposed to these 7 people are telling you what to do.
Yeah, the power is in the conversation and the exchange of ideas versus, like Mr. Polson talked about, the 500 checklist worthless thing that you're wasting all your time on, and the superintendent wasting his time on it too. we'll come up with that. Maybe we can partner with NAS to do something with that.
I did, and I'll keep it brief. You asked for an idea about just what to learn about, and I think as a new board member, I remembered a lot of December, but the one thing I mainly remember was that researcher who studies school boards. But what I appreciated most, I think, about him was how he outlined what a healthy board looks like. And I think I refer back to him in my thoughts when I'm making decisions, or I might disagree with Molly or somebody or whatever. I'm just using you as an example, but and how to like act or react or make decisions and how to communicate. Because I think, like the bigger picture is what we do here affects kindergartners and all that kind of stuff. And so I think if just looking forward, if you brought him back again, I'd be awesome and taught something different. But just that what he taught, it really helped me kind of keep boundaries on what I need to do and stay focused and that kind of stuff. So if that makes sense. Sure. I don't know. I think they know. What
There's
I'm talking about.
actually two of them.
It was the research guy from Seattle or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he was outstanding. And so I just really appreciate, like, I want health, like kind of like a marriage.
Yeah.
You want health for the district, for the board, for everybody. And so
Thomas was his
keeping
name.
that within those boundaries and how to do that, I think was really good for me
Yeah.
to hear.
And I think along those same lines is we had somebody talking about kind of the makeup of the board agendas, and somebody had mentioned, X amount, if half your time isn't spent talking about student achievement, what are you doing? And just getting some perspective on, where should boards be? Where should their time be focused? And I think it's easy, like Superintendent Fueling said, it's a lot of important things to talk about. And in the end, we're all here for the success of the students. And it's not all about academics, but a certain focus on that and what that balance should be, goes kind of right along with, an effective school board. How do they operate? How do they communicate? What's their business look like? All right. If we don't have anything else, do you have anything else for us, or?
Oh, thank you.
Good.
Nope, thank you very much.
Appreciate
We
you.
appreciate
No,
your
we
time.
appreciate you not just coming here, but coming to making it a point to go to all the districts and, and kind of see where everybody's at and get a gauge. I think that's important. I think one of the comments I made at the president's meeting was our board, our district, we're kind of a unique and good size in that we're big enough to accomplish some things, but we're also small enough to be personable. And I think you going around to all the districts, big or small, gives that personal touch that we can do in a state like Nevada. And so thank you for that. Thank you for taking time out of, your personal lives and your busy days. So we appreciate it.
It's only 397 miles. It's just a hop.
Yeah, Well, you better get on the road.
And that's one way. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're going to fast forward to item 14, discussion and possible action to approve the superintendent's goals for the 2024 calendar year. This one is for possible action. Superintendent Fueling. And I'm going to.
All right, wrapping up the evening here. So this item is coming back from the last meeting, talking about the superintendent goals, setting those, and reflecting on some of the feedback, and I think tightening up some of this. and kind of recognizing that some of the items really are kind of embedded in other items, which is not probably a good practice. So trying to, I think at a higher level, just have some of these goals lined up that otherwise I think show kind of ultimately the intent of direction for all this. One of the things I just wanted to point out, and I apologize if I've said this here before, but I've said it in a couple other places, and I think it's important that when we talk about goals, we often talk about measurement of goals. And one of my favorite phrases prior to becoming a superintendent was, "If it matters, it can be measured." And I know now, getting into this role and a lot more reading and a lot more trying to understand that is a verifiably false statement. There are many things in our world that matter that cannot be measured. I think saying you can look for evidence of things, like showing evidence, I think is completely reasonable. But in terms of trying to dial it down to a number, not everything that matters can be dialed down to a number. And the example I'll use is love. Like, clearly love matters. How do you measure that? To the moon and back, right? Like in distance, we measure love, right? So, I just think it's important. So I think with a lot of these things, it may not exactly be a number, but I think there can be a clear expectation of evidence that progress is being made. And so I want you to keep that in mind as we go through. I think just overall, the goal of getting back to, at least as a baseline, to where we were, so that further progress can be made. As I mentioned earlier, the MTSS model, I think that has, it's just a great way to frame all of the things that we ultimately need to work on. And I don't like, I also believe that if everything is important, then nothing is important. But the MTSS piece is, it's hard to get away from that. All of these things are really critical to establish that foundation for growth. And so I think while it's kind of a wide swath of concern, we have a lot of people, a lot of really good people trying to make this stuff work. And so I think we can do that work on a larger scale. And ultimately that helps on the instructional side, that helps with student mental health, and it helps with us managing behavior within our schools. So that seeing that continue to grow and expand across all of our schools, because our schools are all really in different places, I would say, with MTSS, and not in any way at a fault. Like, that was kind of an intentional rollout, like depending on the school situation, kind of where they were at that time. But it's something that continues to move along and grow. Evaluate levels of student engagement and opportunities to improve. So this came up last time, and kind of dialing back a little bit. And I think, and I appreciated the feedback on this, just ultimately really trying to get an understanding of where we are, what we have, and then what are the interests of our students to try to build on that re-engagement, and getting them to see value in what we are doing in the schools for them. I think very related to that is the chronic absenteeism piece, expanding work and resources. And really that's what has been so impressive, I think, with the chronic absenteeism. And I don't know that I actually really expected it at first, is how much interest that has generated in the community. And so what is great about that is ultimately it is a community issue. It's not just a school issue. And so what do we have to do in the community to try to improve those numbers, and see what other support we can generate, what other resources we can generate in the community to help reduce that chronic absenteeism number. And then improving the supports and opportunities for our students. And I think that continues with having people in positions. We know we've done better, but if we don't have people in positions, then students have less quality opportunities. They have less opportunities, period. And so that, I think, just continues to need to be a focus for the district. And then otherwise, the volunteers and community partners. Again, I've been so impressed with the number of community partners we have. And I think as we find better ways to recognize them and see opportunities where some community partners want to do something with us, be a part of helping kids in the community, it will just expand the opportunities for what we can do, be it at the high school level, middle school level, or elementary school level. There's simply, I think of it in terms of like work-based learning. Work-based learning is really a continuum from kindergarten down to 12th grade in terms of the types of things you can do. But ultimately, it's getting all these kids exposed to ideas of careers and opportunities in their future. So it may look different at different levels, but just the fact that we have community partners and volunteers that are willing to support us and support our kids. So just continuing to increase that for our students. So hopefully that's a little more concise and focused, not 7. So hopefully that's a little bit, although I added, you know, well, but I really did adjust it. I really did.
AJ, I was going to say, you know, your explanation about how hard it is to measure some of these things are exactly why I've been saying we need a more robust, well-rounded way to measure learning in the classroom, because those standardized tests don't clearly show the reading abilities of the kids. There's a lot of things that go into those. Laurel sent me an article today, second person that sent me the same article about what's being measured by those tests. But I mean, there is a place for tests, there is a place for data, but there's also varying pieces of data. And so you don't need one measure, you just kind of need evidence that we're moving in the right direction. And I think sometimes we get, because we want it to be linear and easy to digest for everybody, we kind of get this tunnel vision. And so it's all right to just have a couple different data points that show we're moving in that right direction.
And thank you, Trustee Walker. And I would say another example of that. So through COVID, we saw a lot of colleges that started moving away from the ACT and SAT. And so there was just recently an article about how I think it's Dartmouth is now moving back to, right? And I think what's really important about that, like I think it is a valuable measure in terms of it can give you important information. But I think its greatest value, like any testing, is in context of other pieces of information. If you're focusing on one thing, that one thing cannot tell you, it tells me I think the word in that article was the community capital, basically the wealth of those standardized tests are showing us how wealthy a community is, not how well a student can read, which is, that was a really interesting article. But that's where if you have multiple data points and so you have the SAT or ACT, but then you have GPA, you have what kind of sports you have participated in, have you had a job, right? You have all those things that can tell you a lot about a kid, a lot more than that single test score. So.
And I think that's a good point. And I think, the way you've broken this down this time is one, easier to track. I think it's more fair to you. Mm. And you're right. I mean, these standardized tests are important. That's how schools have been measured forever, but there's a certain inherent stress that comes with that. And that stress falls down to everybody. And you get into that rut of looking at what is it everybody expects of us. And the reality is when you look at these kids and what they've achieved and what we're offering them, really that's a big part of the measure of success is, do we have something to the extent possible for everybody? Why is this kid coming to school? He's not coming to school to necessarily learn algebra. Some are, or hey, I've got my head focused on college because I want to be this. But it's, getting these kids to come to school. When we look at chronic absenteeism, how do you get these kids to school? Why do they want to come to school? And you've addressed that in this, when you talk about expand resources, evaluate levels of student engagement. These are all important things. And if we can get them in the door and find things to spark their interest, that's a big step. And I think you're on the right track there. And I think I appreciate what you've put together here, because I think that's the direction we're trying to go. Any other, Laurel, go ahead.
Just a quick comment on the 1A, because you said, I had to read it a few times, district-wide embrace, implementation, and expansion. And I just really wanted nouns all the way to be the same. So what if you changed it to district-wide adoption, implementation, and expansion? Because just embrace seemed out of place for me.
In Wisconsin, I grew up not using nouns, so it was.
I just
apologize.
the 3 in a row.
Right. I would support a motion with that adjustment. Thank you.
All right.
I'm a little concerned on some of these that you may be tying yourself into something you have no control over. Like 3A, full staffing of all positions district-wide. You may not be able to control that. You can try your best, but if you don't get full staffing, do we mark you down? Or, I mean, how do we?
I think that's fair, and I really do appreciate that, Trustee Varner. I just think that like that has to be a clear focus for what they do, and it as long as it's moving in the right direction, or at least, I mean, quite honestly, we've done pretty well this year. I think it's 2.84%. That's a pretty decent vacancy rate, as long as we can maintain. But I think I at least for one more year really want to show that is a focus for our work here. Yeah. It's going to make everything better. I mean, I see that this year, the amount of stress that put on the system last year and the year before with all the vacancies, it was terrible to live and see what was going on. And this year, it's not perfect, but I definitely have a sense that it's better. And so I think just reinforcing that that's important to us. And I appreciate the concern, but I feel strongly that just needs to be a priority for us still.
And
I think it needs to be a priority, but I'm just saying I want to make sure that it doesn't count against you if
well, maybe we could say of almost every position.
Well, and I think
is that a noun?
For me, the punchline here is not the bullets A and B, but continue to improve, or we could say aim to improve or something. Because for me, if I'm grading on this category, I'm not looking at it that concrete that, hey, did you fill every position? But we're trying to improve, and we're trying to move that needle in the right direction. And so I think for me, there's enough flexibility in here to recognize what the intent is.
And on that same note, the superintendent's the leader. And so if there is a forward momentum, I mean, that's your credit.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be black and white, everything. Some things are gray. And I think that's what he was pointing out when he was introducing those, is
I'm a
that.
black and white guy.
Yeah. Sorry, Molly and Rich.
Any additional dialogue, comments, questions, or are we ready to make a motion?
I'm going to make a motion. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the superintendent's goals for the 2024 calendar year, with the changes discussed. I believe those are verbs.
Is a noun and verb. Now we got it.
I'll second. But they're nouns.
We have a punchy board tonight. We have a motion and a second. Any further board discussion? Rich?
I guess I would, how often do you report out? Do we need to put that in the motion?
Sorry,
Quarterly or?
So this will become a quarterly item, because I mean, ultimately, even within the strategic plan, I'm supposed to be coming back to you on a quarterly basis to report back. Now that we're starting to put together some like a framework for that, I'm going to simplify from what I had last time. But I think, I mean, this all just flows together really well to be a quarterly item, just to come back. And not that there's always going to be information on every item every
Right.
time, but at least there's kind of,
The
you'll know what
report
to
on all
expect.
these
Yeah,
items, if
Yeah.
there's been progress or not.
Correct.
Okay.
With your motion quantifying that it's going to be quarterly?
No, so, sorry, you guys, just to jump in, but
Yeah.
the agenda item as written is solely for adoption of the goals. It doesn't talk
Okay,
about
not,
report
doesn't
or anything
matter.
else, so
All right.
I would recommend not putting that in. your
Okay,
motion.
good point. Okay, so again, we have a motion and a second. Any further board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment on this? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent Fueling, thank you. Okay, move on to item 15, approval of the consent agenda for possible action.
Sorry, just a question on here really quick. So it discusses items A through F, and then it leaves on item F that it says the approval of quarterly discipline data report to include bullying and cyberbullying, but it doesn't say anything about the discipline summary for state reported categories that resulted in suspension and expulsion. So should that have been added on there? Or does it really?
I think the short answer is I'll find out for you and we'll make sure it's up to date for the next time it comes before the board.
All right, thank you.
Items for discussion only. Any questions on the informational items? Seeing none, we're going to move to 17. Any requests for future agenda topics? None? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.